Okay.
Here. But this first one here, the support Friday issues. Not being charged at 8.75. I was just curious what the consideration is. Where are you leaning? What's the?
Well, it has, like the last I saw, like the discretionary days should come back or the leave should go to half, but not both. So, that's one that we've kind of talked back and forth, as as I kind of came into this, right, this was all approved in the spring, in the last round before then I got here. I think the intent of it was, right, was with the Sport Fridays was that it was gonna be, what I heard coming in was that it was an all hands on deck approach and that we're gonna be here the whole time, and there was the rationale for that was to really make sure that we know how important it is to be there on the Support Fridays. And so some of the concerns I think that we have at the gate is if we do that, then does it dump down to where we see a whole lot of time being taken off on Sport Fridays and less people available to be around the students? So that's one of the concerns, certainly, right?
I have a question. How much, I guess, a lot of the teachers that I've talked to are taking off, a lot of the things that they take off for, going to kids, basketball game in Glendive, things of that nature. So I guess that's it. But do you find that, from a data standpoint, is there a lot of staff absences on Support Fridays at this time?
Usually it's a higher percentage on Fridays.
Than
And you can tell that the crowd was going around Havre the last month or month and a half, because we've had a couple of days where we have 17 or 18 teachers and support staff out with no subs, plus the ones that are out with subs. And so there are more absences on Fridays than other days of the week.
Whether it's a support Friday or just a regular Friday,
And then next highest day is Thursday.
because we don't go, right?
I'm going on Fridays, but
Exactly.
I would say later on you were meaning though when we have a Monday off, right? Like if we go before that way. So I was kind of thinking maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that, as you can imagine, I mean, that's a concern, right? Like, because so Holly pulled some numbers for Support Fridays that we had with us, and in looking at those numbers at Support Fridays, we're still generating a lot of student support to come in. So for us, that is an area of some concern.
Do you have the numbers on the kids that we're actually trying to target with that? Because I know, I'll have 17 kids, 18 of my own kids in my room. And the 4 that I really super want there that I'm like, hey,
Sure.
those are, those are the ones that I don't see.
Sure.
And then with the other, but if I do get one of them and I'm trying to catch
Right.
that. With some of them, they walked in this year with a definite Friday. Like I had one kid that it took about 2 months to stop reading books on the Support Friday.
Which is a
So-
good improvement.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like it's meeting the intention of it. And then we also, something that we've been hearing from other staff, especially at the high school as well, the student athletes that are gone during the week, they like that because then they can come in on that Friday, but the flip side of that coin is, why are we having things, extracurricular activities scheduled so consistently on those other 4 days of the week instead of scheduling them on Friday holiday? Sure.
Yeah, some of that, Aaron, I can answer for you. So, we try to bend as much on Friday as possible. But depending on, as you know, in Class A, right, we have, in the East, there's some schools that are on 4-day like us, but then majority is not, and they're on a 5-day. And so you try to coordinate schedules for all those events. And it's a tough road. Like if everybody across the state said we're gonna standardized before the approach or whatever, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
Then you wouldn't have some of these issues.
but it seems like first with the back into, oh, this team's gone 16 to, not 16, but like, this team's gone every Tuesday, this team's gone on Thursday, it's more consistently happening on.
And school.
I actually asked Mark about this as well, because I'm on his extracurricular committee, and then I just had the same question. And one of the things he explained to me, which I hadn't thought about, is there's a major shortage of referees.
This is true. That's another
And
point.
so he had said, like, they had made every effort to get games on Fridays as much as possible. But because there's such a limited number of referees, I guess like younger people are not coming up and wanting to ref anymore. That has been a major restriction on how those games get scheduled.
Okay.
And some
I thought it
sports
was
are worse
interesting.
than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so golf is really bad because you can't get the.
The ball players on it.
Every weekend, Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
Correct, and then softball's pretty bad too, wrestling, so a lot of them are okay with it, but like.
Yeah, but that's just been some.
Yeah,
Sure. Sure. So no, I guess Rhonda, then to go back kind of to your questions, that's why we kind of have it as a consideration on, one to kind of look at, but just so that's where some of the concerns could be is all of a sudden are we open it up to where then we have such a vast shortage of staff there that then that Sport Friday really doesn't become feasible.
And in response to the question, like, are we looking at students who maybe have deficits in skills and if they're attending on Fridays? That's one of the things the principals are doing this year and kind of color coding as we do for our tiers. And then when you look, because every student is listed every single time, then you can see which one they're on. That was one of these key goals this year is she contacted every single time. This is why I personally want to revive.
Yeah. I mean, I get all of them every time, so.
I told you guys the last time that I called 6 parents and only 1 showed up.
so I guess just throwing it out here, and I haven't really talked to these guys about it, but if we were able to have, not do a full day for the support Friday, but then we added support Fridays possibly as part of the stipulation, like so some of the teachers can take off for elective things and then do that with limited some, maybe not 10 or 10 might be a little less, but
Kind of coming up with a number of
yeah,
Right.
and that
kind
might
of
be,
approved number.
yeah, might be a way to,
Kind of come to this.
yeah,
But maybe the
Yeah.
5 hours, and
yeah. make it
that's
happen.
just.
That's usually school.
Sorry, Glenn, are you saying that there would be a limit on the number of people who could take that Friday off?
Or, yeah, like, so to go watch kid, we can only have X amount of teachers out, as far like, like the Monday after this holiday, we can only have 10 teachers gone or something like that.
Unless they're sick.
Yeah, unless they're sick, because we can't control if we, have the leadership on Friday, but we can control is, like I knew I was gonna take off for Thanksgiving, so you know what I did in August, the first day of school, I went,
Sure.
I took off my 2 days of
Yeah.
Thanksgiving,
Well, so they kind of plan it out.
Yeah, and it would kind of, it might be a way to, make both sides work. I'm glad you do, because I was going like, we didn't talk about it.
Yeah, no,
It just,
I think that's,
so,
I like that. But that would kind of,
yeah, we both. have-
yeah.
I said thanks for Fridays, I just did it.
Because that's what we have for that, isn't it? It's kind of on the steps.
And I think Tim had talked about that a little bit last time.
When we had 5-day school year, would we see a number of those kids that really needed to be there were absent on Friday, Monday?
That's and everything.
Boy, that's a tough one to chart.
I think it was starting to take us and I think it's really changed.
Yes.
After COVID and the rain, I think we would be comparing 2 different times. Yeah, I would like to say, yes, they would be there if we did have Friday, but
They're going Monday through Friday, not half of them. I hate to say that. They're going every day, some of them, It's like having seen you in a month.
Mhm.
I will have a few of those. Welcome.
That is 30 absences.
Yeah.
I looked at, because I was interested in that too, and this is only Lincoln McKinley data. In 17-18, we had 93.95% of our students, then 93.66, then 95.4. But the last trimester of that year was out for COVID, so we didn't really count attendance. And then when we came back that 21-22 year, it was 88.
It was bad, I remember that.
And then we built up to 90.52, 92.3, and 92.27. So,
Okay, so maybe let's do this then, like the suggestion, so we'll kind of put that down so that when we talk, we can, okay, but that's a good suggestion. Okay, and then next,
Okay, so the daycare thing, so
yep,
we're agreeing with that, you're agreeing with that. Okay, curriculum meetings. I see the 60-hour thing, we'll talk about that, but I'm kind of jumping ahead because some of this stuff is related, but, you know, if that was still in place, this would be a great idea, is to put some of that, you know, on the fourth Fridays, because, you know, it's.
You did a good job with curriculum. You did a good job.
Right.
try to keep it.
so kind of,
PTSD from previous years on this type of stuff.
so kind of, Rhonda, like, to go with what you're saying, with your suggestion is, then that curriculum piece could be a nice dovetail into keeping that 60-hour piece. Because we're using, is that what you're,
We might want to modify that, but I can see where it would tie in and, we could have some negotiations over that 60 hours because of that. So
Okay.
we will get to that one.
Okay.
Okay, no support in the Halloween, that's good, yeah, everybody will be happy about that. It was good that we didn't have it on Valentine's Day too. It's a full moon and Thanksgiving and I had a couple dress rehearsals, yeah, I was happy. Okay,
So that next point there, I think this is a little different in each building. This was, you know, something that we were hearing from multiple people, as why it was listed on there, was, where you can like send kids on Fridays and, in some buildings they are and some they're not.
when you
because
say
the
pulling, do you mean like having for,
services or any sort of,
yeah, they'll just
help
be
Like a
in
video
the
tape.
classroom,
with classwork or,
right?
or even.
They'll be in their regular classroom and not being sent like normal to.
you know, and I think that may be just based on, you know, the experience you're seeing in the building, because I talked to Cheryl about this, right? And Cheryl said, no, we do have identified students receiving services during that time. But it may, you know, I think that's maybe a perception piece per building on which kid is receiving the help, right? And depending on their age, that's probably a different, so that could be one in terms of clarification, if that's what you're asking for, you're kind of looking
Yeah.
for a consistent.
Maybe figure out how to make it look more the perception of things through the buildings. I know in our building, ours is like, oh, you know, this game, you look at this, but,
Right.
And the parents that are in that room
Yeah.
too, I think that's a bit of a concern. And I will say this, I mean, I don't have much to do with special ed, I'm busy doing my own thing, I can't worry about them, but I was down at Lincoln McKinley once and the, SPED teacher from Highland Park, one of them, was down laminating all sorts of things down at Lincoln McKinley, and I'm like, you know, why are you not up working in your building? Because our laminator was broke. But, you know, I'm just saying it doesn't look good when they have, you know, a bunch of people that are not working. When there's some of us who are really working on Friday.
Sure. Are you talking about the teachers?
And maybe their parents too. you know, I don't know what the peers are doing
No.
on Friday.
And like you and I kind of talked about that too, Rhonda, when we met, just on, just kind of on a side conversation, just from the angle of, to say, that's really a prime time to kind of power load it and get ahead, because when you're a case manager, you got a whole lot of extra paperwork, right?
I do know
And
that
there's
special
a
ed.
And
It's
there-
a lot.
there's a
Special
whole
ed.
lot of extra work, and so I think that time will be dedicated to making sure that you're caught up with all of your IEPs that are coming up, and, so I don't think it's necessarily sometimes maybe what's perceived and what's reality.
I do agree with you. Yeah, I have a son with special, and I know IEPs
Right.
are hard, but I also think that when you have a whole bunch of paras sitting in, special ed paras sitting in a room.
Sure.
Doing nothing when we have our mainstream paras running all over, getting their stuff done.
During that time with us.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that, and I think it causes bad feelings when you see
Sure.
somebody not working and the other ones
Yeah, what do you do?
working, you know?
Yep.
I'm not saying any teachers, I think all of our teachers work hard, but I'm saying if you see every pair working their butt off and you see other ones having coffee or
Sure.
tea,
Sure.
causes problems.
Sure.
And maybe that's more like a resource reallocation on that day type of thing, not a.
Right.
Making
what I
a
think-
homework room, doing something, there's a lot of different
Sure.
things you can do, if you know you have
If
that.
you know you have that, and that's kind of some notes I made on this, could be like just a cohesive plan with the principals and SPED director to really kind of make sure that what's being observed and the plan is tied together.
And we talked about last year too, for our students who have more intense needs and are often one-on-one, and maybe on that day you rotate the para out, the para does the prep work for the next week because they do not necessarily get their breaks or anything else, and you rotate the other ones from that department in.
Yeah,
And so that was one of the ways we were trying to, that's why last year.
yeah, and I think it's more being consistent. So this person, that hurts, which often good, they should have that. But this one's not, and like behind.
That can make things actually work out.
And I don't know if I know this is an issue at middle school because I talked to a teacher here just this week who said she will not go to any of these IEP meetings during the prep anymore because it's just an overload. And, can those happen on sport Fridays? I mean, can we schedule parents to come in during that time? Because that would make sense if they could.
I was just this week, I was pulled twice a day for various meetings.
Sure.
And it's so disruptive to. And I'm not doing scheduling elements, bring my friends, during the.
And you know, you need to, when you set those IEP meetings, you are working with the parent, and that's, that's a big area, a big plus if you're, you're saying, well, the only time you can come is 3:30 on Thursdays. That's not a good message you're sending to the parents.
I do appreciate that clarification, and I know you did a really good job at trying to make sure teachers got their preps and stuff. I just think it needs to be tweaked a little bit between buildings.
And share that with your principals. I would
Yeah.
say it's building issue.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I have 6 kids on EPs plus 5 of and so, and then we have others that have maybe 1, so. It's just, sometimes that aspect's been impacting me really frequently with all of that. Really.
But I think that's a building issue, I don't think
And it
it's.
gives you guys stuff you can talk at. Right. Here,
But if you can concentrate on, like, hey, we have this Friday coming up, and we try to schedule them during this time. And if that they absolutely can't, then we make a session. So does that make sense? It's the exception.
Well, and I'm sure those special ed teachers would prefer to have it on support Friday than instead of 3:30
Yeah,
on Tuesday.
that could be,
Yeah.
I mean, I like the suggestion. That's a good one. Okay,
Okay, and, anybody have anything to say on that? Okay. The student engagement, I know that's something kind of hard to address, but I guess it goes back to why are we having all this? That's really what it goes down to with me, is because, something needs to be done. And, we have a list of things. I don't know, do you want me to get that proposal thing?
Do you want me to pass out the survey results? For that one, or should we look at it?
Sure, well, what about, I think, I know what you were talking about, the one,
The proposal?
yeah.
Yeah, let's just do that. What I did is basically put all our proposals that we had already presented to you, on one sheet for clarification, kind of what you did here. So some of this is repetitive, but, and one proposal on here is, just either typos, page number discrepancies, things like that, that she came up with. So that's one of them. Just to fix the contract.
Yeah, that's
Just within the CBA itself.
in the CBA, yes, grammatical errors, or there might be something wrong with the table of contents. Those with MFPE is MPFE one time, things like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
Really just trying to get-
change any language or meaning or intent, it just,
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
same one for tomorrow. Yep, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, every year my office coordinator goes through, she watches, reads it and listens to it. It's nice.
Wonderful. I guess.
We
I guess
can read
might
it.
as well.
Yes.
Don't look at me, I'm not like-
Yeah.
So basically, it's, proposal, so proposal 6 is the one that has those grammatical things. And, proposal 7, that we're kind of jumping ahead there. I wasn't gonna go there yet, but, that is, about what your proposal was for the matrix that you gave us. And we're just counter proposing that we would like 5%. And we didn't really say in that proposal whether we, would go 1 year or 2 year, because to me, it depends on some other things that we'd have to negotiate. Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
You think? What do you want to be passed out?
It doesn't matter, we can pass out, like,
Okay.
Maybe could we do this?
you wanna?
Before we get to these,
Mhm.
maybe let's see if we can get through before we get to the proposals, and then maybe we can grab some dinner and come back.
Yeah.
Let's try to get through the rest of the language.
I agree.
And out with the student engagement, let's kind of, then all of a sudden it kind of goes sideways, and so let's maybe get through that, so we kind of get to the same page with these. And then we can maybe grab dinner, and then we'll talk proposals.
Okay, so anyhow, I guess the,
You're on the
what you
same page.
stated on that one, conversation with principals on it, I guess I have my misgivings about that at times. Not that I've ever had that.
But then we just end up with very different results.
That's right, that's right.
I know every building's different. Like, as somebody who's worked in multiple, even like now, I still do, it's like, oh, not totally different, but it's like very.
Yeah.
We just want some consistency,
That's
I guess, if we can, it's still do what's best for the students, but also have consistency for some of these things, I guess, it's got intent.
It's kind of tough though, as you can
Yeah.
imagine, right? Like for Sport Friday at Highland Park
Oh, yeah.
versus a high school kid coming up to make up a test, it's just such a vastly different one. I don't know when you're talking about that consistency. That's a tough one.
Well,
to
like
grasp, right?
specifics, yeah.
Or, there'll be departmental meetings at the high school for 2 hours. But at any time, students can come in and say, hey, I really have to do this, I don't have enough time. But then you go to maybe the specialist and there's 70 kids in there the whole entire time.
And maybe And Holly, maybe the answer would be just to say from a standpoint like that. I mean, do you all, like, from an elementary standpoint, Jane or Aaron, do you have, if you didn't have kids on Sport Friday, or does that happen to you kids?
I've always had somebody, I mean, my last week, the last Sport Friday was really low. But we have sickness going around. There was only 5. I think when I asked, I said, now don't forget Sport Friday. I always have it on my little, you even said I got it on my slide, Sport Friday tomorrow. And I always told the kids what we're going to do. I think I might only have 2 this Friday, but there's been a lot of kids sick. I don't know what you do with that.
The only one last year and this year that I had fewer than 10 kids was the day after Halloween. Yeah,
That's 439 total.
Compared to 670, 60 on either side of it.
Right. So anyhow, just saying that one, there's just other things about Sport Friday that could, compensate for that.
Okay.
But, okay, I like the fact that you're looking at consideration of half staff for one time rotating the other. Okay, that's an option that we had listed, actually. Okay, that's something that we're looking at. Okay. The do away with the 5 whole Fridays. I guess it really depends on other things in the schedule. So that's kind of,
Yeah, would you like to see the results of our membership survey on Support Fridays and then also suggestions?
we actually went back since you were wondering.
Well, and Ryan, I want to commend you because you're like, is this your guys' feelings? You have the,
Yeah.
and I thought that was important. And I said, we need to ask everybody's opinion. So I did appreciate you saying, is this just,
Yeah.
I didn't want it to look, it was just like us with an agenda. I thought you would want everybody to be back.
Yeah.
And present out us.
This list did come from membership.
Yeah.
It's not all.
Okay,
Is that kind of what we saw when we started?
okay, so we'll pass that out in a minute. I think, like you said, get through the list here the best we can and
Okay.
follow through. So, and, okay, let's see. So that would bring us down to items. These aren't numbered, so. We're working beyond the hours that we used to before we had this hybrid schedule implemented. And I don't know. I think the word here, and this was a member's word, somebody that's not here, her wording, but we've worked more hours for no compensation for the last 2 years, which is unacceptable. It's like, well, yeah, you can say 1% increase, 1.25, but what was inflation? I mean,
In 2021.
we're like going down,
It was 4.7 and 21, 8 and 22, 4 and 23, and 3 and 24.
and I know that, you're not responsible for inflation, but in the same sense, we're working harder, we're working longer, and we're going in debt. So, that's something we'll address too, with our proposal of what we would like. The school calendar. Do we want to talk about this right now?
As far as the days and the
Yeah.
hours? Yeah, we certainly can.
Yeah, because it says here, I mean, your response is, the calendar's set already and agreed upon, but it's in violation of a contract.
And mainly what I looked at for the next year, and I counted 181 days in there. And I know contract language says no more than 180 days. And then I also calculated 1,521 hours or 1,505, depending on what you had for PIR days. So that one might not be in violation, but when I counted them, I counted up 181 days. So
One of the ones is, if you look at like on the next page, like on the HEA proposal 1 with PIR day,
Yes.
So that's where
That's-
we had talked about like, taking out like May. Because that original thought, I think, and this is when, again, right when I was coming in was the idea that 8 was, I think, to help probably accommodate the MTSS program. And, some of those components as it was coming in, I can't speak to that, I wasn't here. But one of the parts where then you notice when we agreed upon that was to say, Holly and I did some research and found, 7 really should be the number, would make that reduction like you're saying.
And those are 6-hour days.
Okay, yeah,
Yep,
so
instead
the,
of
so the
the,
time is fine,
right,
and that as far as that goes, if I had 15:23 or 15:05.
Yeah, and we had made that determination
Sure.
too, when we did that, to go away from and saying, okay, well, this is gonna be an 8-hour day, we're gonna keep it consistent to where it is across the state. At a 6-hour off the PIR, and we shored that up all this year, they were all so far, they've been 6, so.
And then, yeah, my only other question with the calendar is, what was the reasoning to go to a 4-day
I mean,
at the beginning? Why did Havre Public Schools decide to go to a 4-day school week? Was it to retain, attract teachers? And that,
I believe that was the.
okay,
the
all right,
conversation.
because what I'm seeing is,
Retain.
the teachers still are working 180 days. I mean, I know they used to work 187, so is that really a way to bring people in saying we have a 4-day week, school week for students, but you're gonna work, 5 days for, I don't know how many weeks. So that was just one thing I had kind of thought of.
Right,
They have to get hours in.
from a staffing.
Exactly, yep.
piece.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm good for that.
Yeah.
Mhm. So in other words, calendar can be adjusted because on Monday,
Yeah, so we noticed that after.
okay.
Yep.
And that's for the proposal number 1, okay.
Yep.
I think that's just what I had 2 years back.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with that.
I was
when
on
that
that committee, that, once we talked about it, I was like, that's
Yeah.
the code.
Yeah.
Yep, I think that was one that just, they had reasons at the time for making it 8.
I think they were able to get us through a day or something.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, so Holly and I recently looked at that and said, we should adjust this.
Okay, and the next one, specials in the elementary school have 2 or 3 classes combined, making it hard to get anything productive done. Sorry, highlights, but this isn't something that I feel is a hill to die on. It was just part of the commentary on why we don't like support Fridays. So, I mean, that's not really a standalone item, I don't feel.
Yeah, like we said, these are directly from membership feedback.
People's comments about them, so it's not necessarily like, yeah, that one we're gonna, go to the mat over. Okay, then, take November and March for Fridays for elementary and make them conference days. This seems to get a lot of support with the elementary people because, a lot of them are scheduling conferences when it's not on conference day anyhow. They're trying to adapt to people's schedule and whatnot. So, I mean, it's almost like these conference nights are almost a little bit going out of style. Maybe it was for a different time or something. But a lot of people have jobs, or they're home during the day, or they have jobs where, they could come during the day. So I think that would be a positive thing, at least for the elementary.
Okay, so,
Looking at those, like November is not the end of a quarter, October 23rd is the end of the first quarter, and that's why we placed days kind of where we did this year, so they'd be strategically at the end of the quarter during the semesters or trimesters. But November 19th is the end of the first trimester. So are you thinking? Sorry, I shouldn't be interrupting. There's certain.
I like that you wanna,
Are targeted to specifically happen right before the end of the quarter of the trimester.
For right? Like, I think they're talking about just taking, like, I don't think the exact support Friday has necessarily matters as much. I think it's just taking one of the 2 conferences days away, I think is the intent of it. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, it's one of the nights.
Yeah, I don't think we really
Two of
particularly
the
care when. Like, I mean, if whatever y'all think is best, I mean, right, if you think it should be on, because that's usually how it happens anyways. Pick when conferences are, I find out, it's like, hey, we have conferences this day, so just whatever ones would work, but one of them could be a support Friday, or two, one in the following spring, instead of doing the two.
Yeah, even if it was, in the evening on this Thursday and then conferences.
Yeah.
The following day, Friday, because
Yeah.
as it stands, 27 students, I gave it in 15-minute increments. And if what is asked, I can't even schedule all my.
Wasn't support Friday, wasn't that considered for this year? That, the end of the quarter or the end of trimester, that's when you really need those support Fridays. And I was thinking that
That,
Only at the high school.
We aligned it better for the 25, 26.
Well, I think it's right after, the quarter ends on the 23rd, I'm not looking at. With the trimester.
is this what month or month?
I'm talking about October. Or think it's school work the day after. So if the 10th wasn't a conference day, that would, you know what I'm saying? Right? I think if the 10th, like, that's just me thinking out loud here, but that's the 10th and now what, the one for March. The 6th. Or the 5th trimester.
Say the elementary people are best at picking those up. Nobody comes to see me anyhow during
Yeah.
conferences.
Is that, that's the end of the trim. See if
and then.
The 20th.
Yeah.
The 20th.
March 26th is the end of the third quarter for the high school.
Well, in the high, it wouldn't change for the high
It
school and
wouldn't
stuff would
change
do the
really
same.
because it's more
Yeah,
elementary.
So they do those, and then the elementary does the last day checkout with the junior high school
Okay.
teachers. So they come on that additional day is what y'all are saying, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I wouldn't mind that.
Yes, the
It's
Thanksgiving.
really hard to close
And
down.
they're not done,
We
yeah.
work and
As a principal, every.
Every other district I was working,
they have to work.
I'm not. So it's great.
The one point though, like, if you're talking about, ladies, if you're talking about like from elementary already exceeds the hours, you're talking like from a K-3 standpoint? When you say that,
She has, I think they're talking
Because the
about the
K3
28 hours of student contact.
are you talking about like overall hours for the year? Because when you say elementary already exceeds hours.
They always do.
Right, they always
Because they have the same
do.
amount of, yeah.
They always do, right? Like, it kind of, so we're kind of lining stuff out, that we have to think from, then also like from grades 4 and up, then it's a different time. frame. Is that what you're kind of?
I don't think
Is
that's,
that what the comment was on that?
We weren't looking at necessarily that, we were looking at more like teacher
contact.
contact,
Student
or,
contact.
yeah. And if we back it up a little bit, our calendar as it stands for next year with PIR did, with backing it, well, let's see. As it stands with the 8, PIR days, it puts us already at working 1,505.5 hours. Plus you've added those 4 evenings for elementary teachers, that would be an additional 12. And then plus, that's not even all you're doing for every single. And, we have that, I look up where it is. We should work no longer than 1,510 hours. So we're already.
And I think Christina said it was 1,505.
1,505. But if you take off that 8 day, that would give it hours.
Should be 14.
Yeah, so, yeah, 14,
Is that right?
14.95 like that.
14.99.
I was just trying to put that in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but the last day of school, where the middle school and the high school teachers
come in. The elementary is not required. I think that's been going on for. It has been going on a long time.
And you may end up as an elementary, you may end up coming in the next day,
That's right.
if you didn't get everything done.
Yeah,
But count the
Because
teachers.
you can't
shut down your room.
No,
Up there.
and
Because that's been the trade in having just the one set of conferences versus two.
Yeah, and then you would love that day.
Yeah, we would really like to be able to put our stuff away, not on our own thing.
And I think even Holly, you run at those last 2 days when you checked us out.
I think I had 19,000 steps the last day of school.
So, and she started at like 6:30 in the morning checking out.
Compared to 2,000.
Yeah, so if we could switch that to 2 evenings and then 2.
I just think with
That would be.
us going 4 nights, it's a lot. It's longer days with our Saturday, Friday, or with our longer 4 days. I think it's longer days, and I think having that one evening, and then maybe continue it in the morning till noon.
And then on top of those days, we're asked to do stuff like the art show or the summer slide, the math night or whatever as well. And these are beyond.
I can be honest though,
And
I had 2 teachers show up. I did everything.
we were kind of told.
For the last multiple hours. I'm not saying the teachers didn't get absolutely everything ready. It was beautiful. But as an attendant, no.
You can't, and I would agree with her. It's not the part contract. It's just.
But then families are
But
like,
then
well, that's my teacher.
You'd have to attend those types of things if you pulled back the 2.
You have 2 more extra nights, but
Does
love that.
Is that, like, those, for those community building things that we. That will.
Okay, so where are we at with that? We're just.
Yeah, you're on your last one.
We're discussing it further, is that, leaving that? Can I answer what Mr. Gunn was talking about
Yes.
as far as hours? I think there's maybe a little bit of confusion against the aggregate hours that
Yes,
students need for the
yes, and that's
year.
what I was wondering,
Yeah.
where it says that when you have that Montez code,
Right,
so
yeah.
that's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah, compared to the assigned student responsibility per
Correct.
teacher each week. And that's where there's concerns that, are they going over that consistently every time you have a Friday, a support Friday? Since they are obligated to be there for those students for those 5 hours, do they go over that 28 hours every other week? And I don't.
I mean, and you all know though, like in any system, you don't have your K3 working
Right.
those substantially less hours than the rest of your systems. I mean, because if you did, then I mean, that would be quite a thing you could get into pay, is to say, well, if you're
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
work substantially less days, you're gonna get substantially less pay. Right? Because that only makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that wouldn't be a system that would
And,
make a whole lot
yeah,
of
I don't
sense.
know that I've got any of my locals that K-3
Right,
has a different schedule. They might have an extra recess or something like that.
Their prep also looks different because they're cutting.
right,
and-
100%. Yeah.
Versus-
Right, 100%, yeah, no, I think that would be one that would be, as you can imagine, Christine, that would cause a
Oh, yeah.
whole monstrous situation. Okay, thank you for.
Yeah, you bet.
Yep,
Yep, okay,
appreciate
works.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Okay, and then on the last one, Rhonda?
Um, well, yes, what's the further discussion needed?
Where are we at?
Yeah.
We're on the 25, 26. So kind of talk us through that, Rhonda.
Well, I mean, on the new list that I just gave you of proposals, I just listed maybe, 6 things? Just ideas that we were looking at that would make things better with that. I think, obviously my first choice is get rid of support Fridays altogether. And I don't think we're there this year, but that being said, I think something needs to change with it. So it's like, what are we willing to change? that's kind of where we're at with it. Because I feel like we're, you know,
And we did ask feedback,
Yeah.
because you guys wanted feedback.
This would be a perfect time to see the
And
people.
so
This
we
would be
did.
the perfect time. Yep.
And we
Yep.
gave
Thank you,
a
Jane.
list of.
Well, I appreciate you saying, is this just your guys' thing, certainly, it was at everybody,
right.
so I said.
We gave a list of options and, you know,
Okay.
that we already heard. And
Perfect.
then, also left some open-ended to, you know.
Thank you.
So. You had a little bit of both. And then on this one, I just, I put all the ones, I just did a sort so that it, all the ones that say change are together, so you're not like going, flipping the pages when you're trying to look all of that stuff together.
Okay.
these are individual.
Yeah, so these are the individual suggestions, and that was overall. If you look at that pie, the 50% is get rid of them, and then the 41% is keep it but change it. Make it,
Modify.
yeah,
Kind
modify.
of modify, which kind of leads into your second one there
Yeah.
Mhm.
with adjusting.
Right.
So the 41.1 is change it, no, yeah.
Yeah,
And the 8.9 is get rid of them altogether.
No, it's one nice, keep it as is. No,
Oh.
50% is get rid of it.
and on this right.
50%, let's get rid of it, and then 41.1 change it.
Yeah.
And I asked. In our school, there was two who are part of our representation, and they wanted to get rid of it. I just, because you wanted the whole picture, Mr. Dunn, but they want to get rid of it. And I go, wow. I try to be like, hold everyone.
Yeah, so I guess just the bottom line is for me, and I feel it's representative of what we've heard from everybody is, you know, we have two major negotiation things. One is money, you know, we need more money. And one is we're working too much. So, I mean, we're trying to find a balance here in those two areas. And so all of our proposals, you know, in some shape or form have something to do with it. Do you have any more paperwork you need to give them if we take a break?
And for right now, I can certainly hand out the calendar that I have. I came up with different numbers, so.
Oh, okay.
I was just counting. Yeah, it's just, I've come up with like 4 different numbers each on my calendar. I certainly can show you what I've got for the calendar. I double checked it, and I think I even triple checked it, but I'm certainly willing to do some copies going out. Without.
Okay, so. But we were done. I'm sorry.
That's good. The second page will show each month as far as what I counted. And then, no, this bottom.
You guys heard that was-
But again, I counted again and I came up with a different number, so. I don't know, it's, yeah, giving them some. One more time. What's that?
So he wants to continue talking and you can look at that money as we go or what are we gonna do?
Well, let's take a look at this calendar. Maybe, did you want to grab dinner while we kind of look through this
Yeah.
calendar?
Let's do that.
And then when we come back, we'll kind of go through the proposals and talk from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Oh. So that's. That would be your one right for what and what the color. And see, I might be working off the older and.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, because they've got 29th on a Friday and then they've got the security right here and say, okay, I think that's what that is. So that's very good.
Who's ready for school?
Yeah, okay. I don't know how many times I've come to this and. Oh, so here, what do you have? So you have two, yep. Got it, sure. Yep. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Got it. Yes. Yep. Yep. So I think this might be, and I've got this spreadsheet too. I did this is. Yeah. But here, feel free to take that. So I got, and again, states of interest and school days, I had 158. And I had 8 PIRs and then 15 support Fridays. But I mean, if you want to. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm open to it.
Do you? Okay.
Let
Let me hop on one second. Just do like, I have those numbers. Okay.
Yeah, so I get 152 if you count here, but not.
Yeah, but I had a date of interest too. No, that's okay. 218.
Yeah, then let's say.
Is it, oh, what's that? Oh, yep,
PIRs.
yep, okay, all right.
Thank you.
You bet.
Dates.
No, no worries. The 30th being there on a Friday instead of a Saturday, yep. But that's what I was.
But that's not a school day.
Well, and again, when I look at this one, they have 29 fill right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks like that. It looks like a rock.
Oh, you know, they did, like underneath it.
Well, it's a hundred.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the 52, it's just in school. That one jail, that's not very well.
Yeah, it actually feels like. Pretty much the same temperature. Until I'm in the best. She puts the. She catered the band banquet. Yeah.
That's a serious kid.
I was gonna say, was it a little, like, Southerny?
Yeah, oh, it was gumbo and
I
jumbo.
was gonna say, is that why you liked it?
Wait, well, no, I was very offended by the people that showed up to my band banquet with taco moms. I was like, Jerry. But the biggest mistake I made was not asking who was gonna eat. So I just assumed everybody would eat. Like, why wouldn't you eat? It's great food. So we had a bunch of extras. Like, I ate gumbo for the great food.
I've never had one.
Oh, it was, got some frozen.
That's spicy.
It's not too bad. She calmed down. Yeah, I can bring you some if you want. I have it frozen. Use garlic with it. It's good stuff. Speak with everybody though.
And so they said it goes with like, oh, we're gonna get all colors, so there's not.
Perfect. You don't have to worry about you guys being at 100% and then thinking you're gonna get $500,000 and then say, sorry, you
Yeah,
can't.
our
Okay.
budget authority will.
Perfect.
That's what they told us.
Okay,
That's what NASBO.
all right. So they said budget authority will go up. Okay. Because that's a question we've had in Great Falls and we can't seem to get any answer. Budget authority. Will increase. Yeah.
With stars in it.
Perfect. Thank you.
And that's what, and there's Shelley, her name is Shelley Turner.
Okay,
So she's our executive.
okay,
So,
alrighty.
yeah, I went straight to it. so-
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Like, again, I thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. That was a good question though, yeah.
Well, it concerned
I
me
really had
that, yeah.
had to look into it.
I know. I mean, I've got like every one of my, I've got 27 goals, and every one of them is trying to meet the stars.
Oh, just start back again.
And I tell you, you've got.
I know it's tough for some,
I've got, I think Turner starts at 29,000, and so it's like.
Yeah, Christine, when I do this, it's on 181.
Casey's.
180, and is that what I had to?
So I have it, I have it at 181, so
Okay.
it's one over, so that projection.
No,
will
no,
be perfect.
and after we're there, and say over 100.
Yeah, Rand sent me an email about dialing the lights up.
Yeah, I talked to all the clerks too.
Did you? Yep, okay.
There's, some of them can do it and then some it's just gonna, it's gonna.
Well,
just like-
yeah, and we've been told that, technically districts have to just check the box this year. And they're gonna get the money regardless.
It's fine.
Yeah, yeah. it kind of makes me
It's a
feel
little,
icky.
yeah, it's terrifying
Yeah.
when you look at the numbers because it's so many.
Yep, yep.
Oh, really?
Finally.
Remember I said $200 and Potter goes, oh, well, we don't want them to get greedy now. And I was like, you know how much work this guy did?
And it was for 2 concerts.
Like. I mean, I get Potter, I get money, but like, come on. 200.
Right, well,
That's like $20 nowadays.
yeah, let's put it this way, I would like them back, so.
We should have knife for some eggs. Cards for eggs. Here, thanks for.
Yeah, okay. Two years in a row.
$7. Yeah, it was like $7.
And they went down. My husband was a grocery shop. I'm not.
Well, I never paid that, but so I'm like, it's not $2 for a card. That's when I started noticing.
I remember they used to go and say, oh, no, it's your time for like 30 cents for those.
In the 80s.
Maybe before.
I'm like, remember when gas was under, what the,
Mr. Tom,
Yeah.
have you heard of House Bill
I
515?
remember when gas was.
Okay,
oh, that's,
school maintenance dollars from the state. I can get some more, I just got an email about that today. It was pointed out that there are many schools which did not apply for maintenance money from the state. If you have districts who do not apply, I would encourage them to do so.
House bill,
House Bill 5.
Is that for like the building reserve? I think that's what that.
I think it
that's
might
what it is.
be, But it
Some,
says,
yeah, some schools don't take advantage of that.
That's a good idea.
it says also if the district doesn't use it all when they get it can be saved and used for bigger projects.
Because.
Yeah, so that's your building reserve and your technical
Okay.
funds, yeah. So they do like a match or something.
Okay, all right.
But apparently it's gonna increase.
Okay.
Good job.
So we've asked for the
Yeah.
list of districts that don't, but
Yeah.
we haven't received.
This happens to me all the time.
That is their job for sure. Just don't eat it.
I don't know where it's at. I think.
Oh, and there's stronger forks in that cupboard right by you, right behind you. Look down.
Yeah, frying ribs, of course, I'm gonna eat your ribs.
Didn't have the first last.
I mean, I always do that every time I have a plastic thing.
I buy the bamboo ones.
So then can you hook me up with a stronger fork too?
Just food network.
It's the man, they need it stronger.
Might be a little aggressive.
I'm like, oh, it's on, and then it goes.
You're bringing dinner.
Very good, thank you. You're welcome.
These guys.
Scott Hobbs. Any other place?
You know, I can't remember the name of it.
I'll just send an email with the place by the mall. Or the place in the mall or
By
something.
Belfins.
By the back.
Oh, where that old, yummy.
Whatever.
foods
Mm-hmm,
Where the Jelly Bellies used to be.
yes, yes, right there. But anyhow, Jane got these from the Lipids.
I don't know what was different.
We usually live next door to Nova Fest. You remember that? You guys brought us food when we had fights in our like, right next door. Because
Did you live in the house that you walked in on all the time?
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. I legitimately have, I did that.
oh,
It's not because
Somebody's in their underwear watching TV.
Sure, you just pretty sure that's what he was wearing. I'm delivering Domino's to him. I remember going there, I'm like, why am I delivering Domino's to November? And there's something you guys out there.
Yes, that's.
Yeah. What you can tell, you wouldn't want to have to taste one after another, because no, look, this one will land, and it's like big. I hate how much it is.
it's a treat.
It's the only reason I keep checks.
Sharon Olsen has ate that every Christmas Eve. when She was like a baby.
Is that
I know, I think that's a lot of people do that. Christmas Eve, she, yeah.
Oh,
We do appetizers on Christmas Eve, that's fun.
that's happening out here.
From where?
My mom's twin sister used to have a party at her house and she has 8 sisters and 2 brothers, so we all had about 120 of us.
Oh,
And so in September, she would start making appetizers.
Oh,
And then
you
she'd
didn't order
take
it.
January off, and then she'd start cooking for our family. And all.
Oh.
Oh, amazing. Then my mom, who was her twin, did not like to cook, and so she would bring the veggies.
My mom, she'll go, but
And Chris does not.
Whenever I have a friend, somebody likes to cook for them.
They were about 3 years.
yeah, it should have, I think so, it should. She like, I swear, she walked in the piano line, but it's not you, and said, that's you. I'm like, you gotta get up and walk around a little bit. maybe it's
She
for
said Emma wanted
Maybe it's for everything in the
to
band. and I think it's
ambidextrous.
You might be strong.
Pretend to sleep
But
to
like,
go.
If they were supposed to find out in varsity, then I.
Were they supposed to find out tonight?
Are they like alternate, like varsity, try out which time? It's every week.
do a little bit.
No pressure.
Yeah.
She did get a lot of those.
I'm sitting on the bed, so she texted me, I was going, oh, stay there. We did it again, I was going to something tonight. And then I said. That's one, the one I said. was like, no.
We didn't.
Trips, I just felt bored.
Could be trips.
I
In April.
don't have time to hold everybody's hand.
Colorado, being different down to Santa Fe for people.
Well, it's okay.
Still might be bigger, I'll see them.
That's where my sister is right now. She left today.
That sounds good too.
She goes every year.
Like, I'm just thinking, there's a bunch of those things are stuff in there. There's a bunch of kids stuff in there.
Well, it's just kind of, I was like trying to get in here.
Oh,
Did you say?
that's my fault.
Well, I just rolled to Great Falls.
I drove.
After basketball.
Well, that's about full of
Did you get to stay over last night after?
It's been worse, you know.
Did you go to Box Elder?
What's this like?
It was one on the box over.
You know, and then.
School board, yes, I did about that, but I did not vote.
But some, I read them and I go, I don't think so in my head.
There's no questions. Megan, she knew I was here today and tomorrow. That's what it was today and tomorrow. It's going to be weather. And I think Rocky Boy had their board meeting 2 weeks last night.
Oh, when did they come up with?
So we're meeting tomorrow.
They want to, they want to adopt 4 days
Gotcha.
as well.
Is it a straight 4 day or are they doing support?
They're doing, I think, some support Fridays and then some teacher work day Fridays. So. You're right. Mm-hmm. And Box Elder, you know, I've seen our calendar, I can't. I think they might be doing the same.
Stay friggin' wild hall.
Wanted some of my cheese at one.
Basketball on here, shoes at like.
He goes out there at least once a day. I was getting cheese at for area perimeter, bring the file. He doesn't know that.
That's.
He said, "Oh, you do come show to us." Yeah, I want cheese. That's already.
I told
Especially the
Taylor, I
late
said,
ones.
"Look, here, let's go."
Extra cheddar.
Kelly, I invite you.
They don't make it.
A lot of people do.
That's what Mallory does, but it was like that with us. Mark would be like, we're going to state basketball, you gotta get the bags to rooms. So I'm like, haven't we made it to state basketball for like, I don't know, the past X amount of years? And so finally, we booked the rooms a year in advance.
Yeah.
Hey, we should just, you know, it's gonna be this. I welcome to Mallory. I said, hey, it's gonna be in this town this year. So let's call around and let's get the band this many rooms. She's like, all right, I'm on it. Boom. I haven't had a problem.
She's delightful, isn't she?
Yeah, what a savior. I'll tell you what. I know that position was taken for granted at one point. I'm gonna tell you what, because this is the fourth one since I've been here, and it's been like Mallory and then Megan Ball before her.
Oh,
They were both really, yeah. Like the first 2 individuals that haven't been like barely treading water in that job, so, because the first was like, before Board was like treading water, she couldn't make it. She was really trying. But, and then Taylor did all right, it was just really fun. But it was really nice having somebody like strong and activity going. Takes my life a lot easier to me.
Michael's.
So where's this Europe trip at?
They go to. Hang on.
There's April, place.
Well,
This is the first ever.
Well, I just got asked to nominate, so I don't know how, I don't know where it goes from there. I don't know if every kid that's nominated makes it, but I'm nominating, I'm nominated quite a few, kind of cast a wide net. And then I think it was over 200 kids went last year, but I know it's like, one maybe now, I know.
My cousin's getting married. Did that last year, and she.
Yeah. Not just this one, focus.
My sister-in-law is the development director at Still Havre, that's in 15th century castle in Wales.
No, that sounds terrible.
And so it's an institutional skill in here for them. What is the current senator?
We wouldn't be able to get that.
I'm not doing things, no matter how old she is, she's still writing her stuff back down. She doesn't sleep.
Yeah, she's kind of laid off in the swings. Yeah, no, just do this now.
Kind of despair.
Yeah, but still like, the kids are cranky just sometimes. We're talking kindergarten and first graders.
Haven't heard it.
This happened, like 5 kids, if you can believe it. They came in one day and they're like, all of a sudden, who's raising them? Why is there a banana over there?
It's American.
It was right where my staplers, I mean, on my desk has so much done on it, but. Have you never seen a banana before? Like, can I, oh, they said, well, I've never seen banana. I snack okay. 5 kids asked about that.
You know,
I had a day and a half. 2 hours.
this weekend, they usually wear they pretty much like came to school. You know, like they've never been to a zoo before. They were trying to start building. I'm like,
They don't get up.
they don't. I've never been to a zoo before. I'm like, they were charged anywhere from $5 a head with them.
I've never been to the.
In the summer, maybe, because it's all the plants are grown, because there's like a bunch of plant. It's like, they're just like the grass out there. And I'm like, ooh, look at this exhibit with all these signs and on the front. So it goes to UK, Germany, Liechtenstein, what you on?
So ladies, whenever you're, and we're ready.
Ladies in college, very close.
Darren, as you know, too, the one we handed back to you guys, and it has these other ones, and I think that one thought I had was as we continue to navigate that too, different process is typically now from this point on, there couldn't be any more additional proposals coming back.
Right, yes.
So this should be the end of those, just so that we're kind of on the same page with how that process should work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to kind of look over?
Did. Yep, kind of read through that,
Is
the
it just
feedback on that.
kind of looking more at these ones, we were all kind of one hot,
Mhm.
but the concentration of if they're gonna change,
Sure,
how should they change?
right, yeah. Yep.
And you know,
Which is helpful, it's good to kind of, get a picture, a lens of kind of where people are at with that, and
yeah, and I think that the reducing it to once a month instead of 2 a month, that would just. We went from like 187 days down to, well, what's then 181, whereas the students only are hired 156 where all those days are. I had a couple kind of newer people be like, it feels a little bit like a bait switch, like, I have a pretty school week, but is how that feels because of the number of the days that we're physically in the building. So if we could switch it to a once a month or something else that we were hearing was switch to a once a month that have it half day students, half day meetings, PIR type of stuff. And that way,
I think Anchor Shelby does that. Does it once a month and they do support and they do their.
it would be kind of like
I
a,
don't know.
teacher meetings on one.
yeah, and it would provide the opportunity for all of this.
So maybe even if there was two. And then, say, or then slash. The other ones maybe would be teacher meetings. So if we kept the two,
Teacher working,
like time to kind of collaborate both maybe from a
Yeah.
building perspective or like from a district perspective, like where you could do vertical and horizontal. Like,
Yeah.
you know.
So are you saying one of them be student and one of them be teacher? Something like that.
Yeah.
Or just combine it into one eight
Yeah.
8.75 day, have it be classes, because then it would be the perception of giving you more.
And you'd have another Friday that was
Yeah.
your.
Yeah, does that make sense? The hours are pretty darn close, it's just, it feels like getting.
Yeah, yeah, I know where you're coming from. I think the one now that we've kind of agreed upon following Montana code with the PIR, we probably just reduce that to 7, so we stay right at that 180 days, so we don't go over that. But on the other supports versus the curriculum, you know, avoid the discussion. Well, that's just 8 on this. Proposal 2 was retaining the 60 hours of additional.
And where that 60 hours came from was the contracted time was 14 from the other, and the max was 15 to 10. And so that 60 was in the past. And if we're already at 14.99 and a half, that 60 hours is really, grass.
So just to, as a point of clarification though, the 15-10 hours is related to the school calendar. And then that additional 60 hours has always just been additional hours for like evening events, like you guys were saying.
Yeah, but her previous contracts and calendars, the hours, the contracted hours were really like the 14, 6, it was a little different every year. And it was about 60 hours to make that should have the G10. That sense.
So you're saying that in previous PBAs, you had like 14, 50 hours?
Something in there. 14, 15, 14, maybe a kind of period. That's your
one of those previous things, but
I just don't recall that from previous negotiations because,
yeah, I mean, the 60 hours though was in there from, it was in there for a long time.
it's been.
right, I agree with that. I'm just saying that last time, I don't recall that we went from 1450 to 1510 hours for just school calendar plus the 60. And I guess I would have to look at that, but that was not my.
We weren't quite there, but previously that was the ballpark of the contracted hours. And then that 60 was, because that 1510 cap was there, and then that 60 was the box, the ish difference between those two. Is that
Not quite, but
I think, doesn't it stem back to when you were at 187 days?
yeah,
So normally with 180 days of student days, those are 8-hour days. So you take 180 times 8, that's the 1440. And then you've got your 7 PIRs at 6 hours, which is 42. And so usually the amount for teacher contracts is like 1482. I've seen 1496 as well, depending on whether they do an 8-hour or a 6-hour PIR, you know, and that. So most of the time I see it anywhere from 1482 to 1496 for hours.
Well, it says in the CBA too, under that, section 10.1. F, point F, there's a little couple sentences after it that says, this section 10.1 F will revert to previous language, which is in the 2022-23 on June 30th, 2025, and does not apply to future agreements between the unless agreed upon in subsequent bargaining agreements, which
Probably means that's what it said before.
But it also said 187 days.
Previously.
So
You're saying-
when we went to the 4-day plus supports, our days had to get longer, which is how we ended up with the 15-10 hours. Once the principals had to lay out the bell schedules. So if it reverts back, that reverts back to the 187 days. So I just want to be clear on that, because that was the language that was in there previously.
How clear are we on hours or days?
Well, that's I think that's the thing when, like I mentioned in that spring, before I came on, this was one to bring in the system that was all agreed upon. Was not those days, like you're saying, Rhonda, which equates to a different hour threshold. And then the piece of the 60+ hours is still in there. And so that's kind of a piece that was agreed upon within.
What are we doing on this stuff? And we will figure it out.
Based-
on proposal two?
Yeah, so we kind of went from then, like, when we started talking from Aaron kind of put in like number 8, which talked about then kind of adjusting the supports maybe to a little different format, right? Which kind of ties into number 2, if you kind of go across it,
Yeah.
right? And so it sounds like there is a discrepancy from what you all brought in originally to where maybe the hour threshold was, like you're saying, Christine. Where when you were on a traditional 5-day, there was a certain hour threshold, and then you add in the PIRs, and then you kind of get to this amount. The language on the 60 hours was still in there on top of then this new adjusted one. And so now looking at it, the question becomes, is there over the top hours versus what should be in a different format? So if we look at it, let's go like this. Because we kind of laid out with the red language, and then maybe we'll get to your additional proposals after. So in the one that I handed back to you all, right, HEA proposal number 1, talked about that, so we can check off number 1. Number 2 is one that we'll need to have discussions on in terms of that 15-10 now with number of extra work, so we can leave that one. Okay, let's look at HEA proposal number 3, where it talks about the attendance stipend. So, and we kind of talked last time then, rather than the once a year, right? We've kind of agreed that, hey, we could go to twice a year. Did that feel good to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So we got this one we can say. And then, Cullen, as you noticed, then what I put in with this one too, says school-related absences can be used for events that are tied to HPA activities. Staff would be able to be paid for more than one job at a time.
Absolutely. Can we?
elaborate a little bit on it, and I can discuss, and
Yep.
you can have, we got kind of,
So we kind of asked.
we kind of asked, and Nick Meany brought this to us, and he would like it proposed that if a teacher was repping, it could be female, it could be male, it could be volleyball, if they're repping either divisionals or state, they would like it to be school related, and I think they're represented our school. I don't think it's not a huge amount of people. I think that's something we need to look at because it's voted on. And they are, if we have teachers who are repping that are voted on at the state level, I think we should look at giving them this school related leave. I don't think it's a lot of people, but I think it's a representative of those who get voted in that. This would be like divisionals or state.
Does your husband still go with the wrestling?
He goes back and forth, Lorraine. I want to say he's quitting this year, but I don't know. But I know McKinney gave us this, and I felt kind of compelled because Mike does it, you know? I mean, he doesn't take a lot of leave off. And I said I would propose it. Not a huge group of people either. That I know Avery Pasma does volleyball. I know Kelsey Ward does volleyball. I know Mike does wrestling. You know, McKean does basketball. It's not a huge amount of people, so they're not going to be using, and they have to get voted in. So who knows who's going to get voted in.
Correct.
But it also shows their character, and I think that needs to be rewarded.
Well, I think he said, I'm not finding in the letter unless it was in something else, but that other schools do this so that,
What's the last sentence of this, first?
oh, okay.
And I know we talked about, you know, staffing with reps, you know, and stuff like that. I just think if they're voted at a divisionals or state level, we should look at that.
And so then is it only for repping or does that?
They were okay just, well, and I wanted to ask, I said, well, maybe we just go to reps, and he said, yeah.
3 or 4 people, yeah, and it's very.
A huge group of people, but it's also voted statewide. It's a big deal.
It is, no, and I mean, I know from the perspective of being a coach in the Navy that you sit down and they are selected. It's a different process than just volunteering to go to say, I'm gonna go cover this event in Malta.
Yeah.
Right, because them leaving their position to go take the referee position in unlike a divisional or state level thing, doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And typically you vote on, I want to say, I think it's just for the state.
Yeah.
Officials.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't necessarily be divisionals, but it would be the state.
Yeah.
Officials. So.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, he even said at the bottom too, you know, possibly his days would not, unless it's directly for us, like you guys said.
Right, well, we can agree to that, you know, because we've had situations come up internally.
Yeah.
Where we need to have our staff do that, and I think that piece just makes sense, right? Like you said, Jane, we're helping out our own with families with said situation. In anything within a building. This one, maybe we would say would be then state level.
Yeah.
Because that's what we're voting on.
Yeah.
All right, so if we look at number 4, then. Discretionary dates. Okay, so maybe kind of talk through that again, Aaron. Or Rhonda, whoever.
Oh, the allowed sick days that are going to be used for discretionary days with doctors. Yeah, I just feel like,
You have these days, like you said, you're playing, like we talked about the Plans and Support Friday Act, right? So we're playing these days and then I know this happens to all of us, or with kids, but, they get sick for a week and then they lost 4 days and then we're out of days. But then I have my 18 sick days backed up. But I use my discretionary days first because I have to, and now I can't go to this thing that I have planned. Now that, from a planning perspective, and because they are sick days and they're there, because they rolled over from days that we didn't use in previous years, it's not the way that they're there. So if we were able to access the actual sick days for being sick, even if we had to get a doctor's note or something, that would just be great.
Saves a lot of stress. Sounds good.
And then number 5, you can see the top one where we had language should reflect K-5 teachers getting the same amount of prep time. We did not agree to that just based on, that's a difficult one to manage, right? It's kind of like the same discussion, Christine, we just had on at that elementary. It's a tough one to navigate just based on the difference in the systems within.
Then we talked about when we went into the room about how our work levels are obviously different. High school, I get a good chunk of time and I use my chunk of time after school compared to the high school. So we talked about that and we're like, well, maybe we should let this go.
I mean, maybe it doesn't in every case, but it does kind of balance out a little bit along the way.
It does. So we want to drop that, we think.
Yeah. But the rest of that underneath, we did want to discuss that. The allocated travel time
yes.
should be consistent. But did you want to talk about that in your situation?
Yeah, and mine's just one example of, I know it's one of those things like we talked about, we just having built, each building's different, has different needs. And so then, but I guess for, what was it, 3? So I've traveled for 4 years. For 3 of the 4 years, I traveled basically on my lunch for all my prep, and a piece of that was, I guess, me not knowing enough to advocate to not do that, but it was just something that happened. And then this year I wised up and advocated and I said, I can't do that. But but then I look at my fiance who traveled last year, because it lined up differently, right? But my fiance basically almost got a whole entire period to travel just because the schedules lined up weird because the middle school wasn't on advisory. And they were, so by the time she got to 6th period, middle school was at a different, I think middle school was a 5th period or something. It was something different. But she ended up having because she taught 7th period in middle school, so she got to travel. She basically traveled and had like 30 minutes to prep. And I'm sitting here losing, And so if there was and I'm not saying that it's bad that she got all this time, but it was just like, I felt like I would, and it wasn't as consistent, So even if we just put some specific language under that, I think is it in 10?
And I think what happens is sometimes the schedules don't always align, and that's where the problem is. But, could they be compensated somehow? Because it's just not really fair.
But we just put specific language that says, I know it's
Above what they're normally compensated for travel.
Yes,
Like travel stipend.
yes, because everybody that's traveling would be compensated for the travel. It's just some people, get a full,
And I think we
5 to
have that
50 minutes.
built in though, don't we?
And we're increasing that 25% this year.
Right, but is that everybody the same? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's prorated based on.
Right, but what I'm saying is, last year I traveled on my lunch hour, okay? So that was my travel time. And he's saying his, significant other, had a full period to do that. And, I have walked in behind my kids coming to the music room, winter in your snow boots and, trying to.
You lost a glove?
I lost a $120 glove somewhere, probably in
I
someone's
lost one on
locker.
a chairlift one time too.
We looked in every kid's locker down the hall.
It's was digging through trying to find the glove.
So, I mean, or if we just had something specific, I know it says that, we're entitled to a period of full lunch, I'm aware of that, but even if we just add it in it, not in the, don't want to be, not meaning to be redundant. Have something like itinerant teachers shall not be asked to travel on lunch or without additional compensation. I know that
Well,
might be
we have-
redundant.
I think we have in there too, that, Holly did a real nice job of kind of leading that discussion with Moses and I in terms of trying to kind of section out the number of times to travel. So maybe that could be weaved into,
Trying to align it to either like first period,
yes,
end of the day,
maybe the alignment of that.
but nothing.
Yeah.
No.
What
Yeah.
else was in 3 periods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if you were in a situation, Colin, maybe they get a different threshold in terms of the number of travel, right? Because some's like occasional, some's consistent. So
Maybe it moves up a step.
Right, exactly. Maybe it moves up a step to
Yeah,
kind of
especially if
facilitate
people go
that,
building
maybe
and then
something
have to
like
go
that.
back. No, I think that was pretty good. Because like I said, sometimes, I mean, there's so many classes and there's just no place to put it. So I mean,
Right.
I'm aware of that.
I know Kresge's saying about teacher travel between buildings too, so he's trying to slow it down as much as he can.
Grassky's trying, yes, I know. I know. It's not
I've had those
something.
discussions, I'm like, well,
Mm.
if you want a 40-person band, we can get the high school ball game, and we'll have 40 kids in band instead of 60 or 70. Like, he was like, all right, fine.
Need to do some good of the whole.
That's fine. I was like, well, if we want to have a big band, I gotta be down there at least see what we're doing.
Right.
Same for the
Okay.
band. But yeah, thank you.
My comment on that would be the contract language says you have to do the free class period. And if you don't, my suggestion would be to agree, just no, just agree.
Or a duty-free lunch, which.
Well, and
Exactly.
I guess that was my being naive and not advocating for myself as part of it too.
Are your.
Yeah, I should have, my second year teacher, I was just trying to survive. I should have went and said, no, I need to get somebody to cover this class so I can leave, and it's, but I know that I'm not the only one and I won't be the last one.
Well, I think that's where the win continues to say, if it doesn't align to that, then we could adjust the rate on that to,
Compensate with the-
Exactly. So that's where I think the win is. And like Holly said, we're gonna be having that conversation with our board next week at the financial meeting, was to talk about where, looking at those costs that we just talked about since 2013, went up roughly like 24 point whatever. So we rounded up to 25% just to say, hey, it should be adjusted based on the cost of fuel and where that is now. So we're making that move too in a good faith effort to say, should make sense, right? So, okay. And then the last one on this talks about the faculty parking lot. We just felt like, I watched this happen, right? So we gave the example in Stevensville. And so I watched this go really bad with the designated spots. We came back over a weekend, and in Stevensville, all of the schools are kind of on one block, right? So you've got your K3, you've got your high school, your middle school, they're all on one block. And in that, you had some back parking over here for the high school, you had some behind the K3 for the elementary, and then you had this master middle kind of parking in the middle where a lot of them buildings, music center, people all kind of park generally fit in. Came back over a weekend and there were designated spots, right? Just for certain people. And I mean, you want to talk about just creating a situation of a bad culture climate. It was it just went really bad, right? Like it gave off the feel that either teachers or principals, in this case, it was the district office. And nobody else had spots except the district office, right? And so that set off a really bad feel, as you can imagine, right? But even if we did that for teachers versus pairs versus, you know what I mean?
One time it was like that,
Yeah.
Holly changed it, she's like, no, everybody's important here.
There you go, and that's where I'm going,
You
Jane.
are important, I see you carrying in your stuff, and I know you don't get a good parking place. You can have my parking place when you pull in.
I feel like it's just the kids parking.
Lincoln McKinley's parking, if that's something you guys need to know.
And I did not put principal parking up. I promise, that was there way before I was.
We always liked that though, because we knew if you were there, so.
And I would park there
Usually
if I
people just
knew.
park behind me.
But I think it's something we need to look at with the parking, because it's terrible there. It is terrible, and I feel bad that you have to carry your stuff and you have to.
Even if it was, you know, like not designated for persons that, for staff that do have to, and carry instruments or whatever, maybe that was better.
Highland Park can be difficult,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes,
just going
it
to
can be.
meetings and that.
See, I walked first.
Right.
It's the kids parking.
It is, there's being parking.
It's the kids parking right in front of the banner, and then you watch Mark.
No, you could have,
Out there in the middle of nowhere.
right, like in the high school one, I mean, that's the only kind of uniqueness where you have students driving. I mean, maybe you could
Yeah.
designate a staff and student parking lot, but I'm gonna tell you, if you start differentiating between your staff,
Oh, no, I think.
it'll go bad.
Like even the back, I'm just thinking just at the high school, I can't speak to the elementaries, but like, you know, that, I know that the city owns it, but I was watching the maintenance files yesterday. You know, because I was like, I'm
You
gonna
didn't
get
say
like,
that.
but I know like that front curve, like, you know, like right in front of the office, we had a couple of guest spots for like parents grabbing their kids, and then we had staff parking, and then and then the back lot on the other side is staff, and then the other two are students. You know, because, and honestly, it's a lot of my band kids are some of the worst offenders. I tell them, I'm like, and then you know what? Then I walk myself to the building. I say, hey, why don't you go out to my truck and get these 8 instruments that's there because you parked in my spot.
Good for you.
And I'm like, what'd you have? Nothing. I didn't take mine.
Carry a pencil.
That's why
Yeah. Bring nothing.
Yeah, so Janet Washington went real bad.
But I know they said it's
Right.
part of it, but that's more want to bring up the, I mean, I know it's an issue, but it's getting, I feel like it's getting worse at the high school too. It doesn't get better.
But I think it's gonna work, so I mean, you have people like parking in kind of the alley,
I have parking there.
Everybody parks in the fire lane in the high school, and so then we have a fire drill, and then everybody goes, hey, you know, you shouldn't be parking there, and then next week I'll see the cops doing the training, and they're all parking in the fire lane, I'm like, all right, well, there's a situation here, you know?
Really don't take it.
So then let's move to number 6. Right, so number 6, where you have, okay, so we kind of covered the 5, and then we were looking at number 6, which was the spelling,
Yeah.
kind of the new ones you added, right? So which are 6, 7, and 8. And we agreed upon that would be the last of any proposals. Number 6 changes and punctuation. I couldn't agree more that we're agreed upon that needs to be clean.
Any changes that I do make will be read and strike through and that, so you'll be able to see those
Okay.
as well.
Okay, yep, nope, that makes,
Okay.
that's an easy one. And then, so let's talk about number 7 then.
Is that your salary?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I'm stuck on where I got so many papers as well. There it is. Okay. I feel like I need to figure this one.
okay, right here, paper.
So I've got a 5% here. I did have one question on your proposal. It has grade areas in it, on the first few, cells. And my assumption would be is that those cells will be adjusted to fit the STARS Act. And that,
Right.
yep, okay.
Yep.
Because
Did you have one, Christine, with the 5?
I do, yes,
Okay.
yeah. I don't have some work- I'm
And
sorry.
was that 5 over both years?
I didn't know.
Or was that 5 like, so it would be maybe 2 1 year, 3 the next,
5
or
for 1 year.
5 for 1 year?
Yeah.
No, this is a 2 year though, so you're saying 0 on the
They
second?
didn't ever say it's a 2-year contract.
I did make a 5 and a 5 for you guys if you wanted me to hand it out. I was unsure. I'm the one who's.
Well, that's what I'm just trying to clarify.
Well, we left that open because it was like, first of all, I'm not a fan of Sport Fridays, and so I'm kind of leery of going 2-year contracts or more until we see something happen there. And maybe something will happen this year, so I mean, I just left it open that, you know, we're not tied to
So
anything.
this one's just really coming at 5 for 1 year.
For 1 year, yeah, and
Okay.
not a 0 for the next year.
Right.
I was asking, I was like, they're up in the count.
I should look at how it's based for their spending Fridays.
Like you said in the extracurricular, you said 25%, right?
It's not worth it, but.
Yeah.
I know.
No.
Okay, perfect. Let me get that.
Right. And you know, to try to promote the 5% recruitment, retention,
Well, it's bad.
happy staff, happy kids, happy life.
Yep. I do. There's 4 of them.
Oh, good. All right. And for your teacher here, if you would like.
Isn't with the staff, but this is just.
That's cool.
Colin, did you do that?
No. You, I did not.
No.
He's good at handing
I've
things
been
out.
working for months on all of these things.
Share. Oh, I can bring mine.
No, that's right.
Chair? No,
With no step in the lane.
So
I.
I received the Montana School Board Association calculations for stars,
Okay.
which is what this is, and I don't know if you're familiar with this at all. Okay, yep.
Yep, yep.
And I just play around with it for every, kind of all of my locals who, you know, are questioning what is needed for stars. And so again, don't quote me on all of this. It's merely an estimate and that as well. But I did that where I just added a 5% to everybody's salary for the fiscal year 26 and the fiscal year 27. Does not include any steps or lanes, because that would be miserable to try to figure that out. But it kind of shows that you'd still, even with the 5%, you'd still be in the black, I think is that what it is, not the red, with your stars increase for the first year, fiscal year 27. And again, I wasn't too sure what they wanted. That shows a 5 and a 5 over 2 years. So the second year for Stars Act, it would be in the red with a 5 and a 5 on there. So again, it was just something that I'm a spreadsheet nerd, having been a science teacher for 24 years. So I just love to play around with it. I also have the one that you need just to qualify for stars. Like I said last time, Havre's in a really good position where it'll be easy for the district to achieve that and get that stars money or the extra QEP. It looks like you only need about $2,600 for those people who are below the $41,615 and that. And so, like I said, you're sitting there really, really well with that. And I also did do your proposal at a 2 and a 2. I don't know if you want to see that.
Sure.
But again, that is with no step or lane.
Yeah.
Yep, no, you're good. I've just been clumsy. And then the last thing that I did is we have a program where I can have my office coordinator, I'm not gonna say I can do it because I can't. She calculated a 0 and a 0. And the only reason that we do that is because she can advance the TEG, the tag, and it can tell you an estimate on how much it would cost just for steps. And let me get these handed out and I'll kind of explain that as well. So when you look at the salaries on each of these, there's no change in the salary schedule for both of these.
Okay,
Do you have two? Okay, that's three of them? No, this shows you, 1 year and then the next year.
Okay.
okay,
So if you look at the bottom right area, I think it says new money.
Yep, and so it's an approximate about how much money your steps would cost if everybody moved down the step, okay? And then it wouldn't include, of course, if those people are at the bottom of the salary schedule, it just keeps them there. And so it kind of, it shows that, like the first year is like 142,000,
Mhm.
the next year's 132,000. So that means that people are probably stuck at the bottom and they're not getting a step in that. And I don't know how well this compares to yours, or if you are able to do that. But again, I just used the salaries that I received from someone and just plugged in where they were in the salary schedule. But yeah, again,
One of our major concerns was, I don't know, speaking of insurance, last year our insurance increase was 300,000 and it's projected to be. Okay. And it's another year out to 27 until the trust would come into play. That might help alleviate some of that. But a 60% increase would be low compared to some of the other districts.
well, Chinook, I can't remember what they had. They had just a huge increase. Yeah,
60%.
yeah, in their insurance last year. It was scary.
Yeah.
So, Chinook's one of my locals as well. So,
But we have how many on our insurance, just.
Oh, I don't have a number.
You
Like,
have
just like teachers. And staff
teachers
and-
and staff and administrators, and how many are on the?
I had that from
I
last
think
year.
most of them, maybe just like a handful, but I would have to double check for you.
Okay.
To give you a definite answer.
There's like with the spouse and the railroads now.
Yeah, I think if they railroad, that would be.
and that's kind of part of the puzzle certainly is the insurance piece, right? To keep, and that's where kind of then our MOU back to you all with 2 and 2 was to say then Moses and Holly and I, when looking at the numbers, felt good about then keeping with those, being able to offer that same level type insurance package right across the board. And so that's an important factor certainly to consider versus not, a lot. And Christine, you probably worked with this since I'm assuming you do a lot of work kind of all over the state with this.
The High Line is mine and so is Lewis, Tom, Moore, Hobson,
Yep.
Judith Gas.
So in a lot of those ones, and when I moved up Havre from the west side of Montana, a lot of those schools that went to they designate a set amount of money. And they just say, okay, well, we're going to be $500 a month towards insurance.
Okay.
You choose whatever package you want, but it's going to be a set amount. So that set amount doesn't change. Now, then they maybe have a different flexibility when negotiating the percentage, just based on the amount that's given towards insurance. But that certainly then becomes a consideration. Like Holly said, that's another 300 grand in insurance. So, those are all pieces in your percentage for that too. So that's just, kind of something to think
And
about.
if you did say, was it family or one whole individual?
Yep, it's the single rate that then if you take that, we're paying for it. And then above that, right, like, so we pay that amount, that
Yeah.
percentage, then there's a difference, right, if you do the family, but you still have up to this threshold, which is nice. Yes, correct.
Is insurance a separate?
Okay, I'll do that.
Or is that?
Well, so this like be tied, so like there's a piece in your contract that says
That's single, I think.
if it goes above 8%, then you can come in and we can renegotiate what's gonna happen with that. If the insurance piece comes back and it's above an 8% jump, then we can
So we don't know right now.
Correct.
Until.
Becomes the end of March.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're good for it.
And is that,
In like 2 weeks, we'll know that answer. Yeah.
Okay.
In theory,
In theory. Yeah.
But I think the point is that we only have so much money, so it's kind of like what you're saying, Rhonda, that a separate negotiating piece. We had a separate section of the CBA, but, if you give one here, you gotta take away from the other person. That, I mean, it was like $320,000 for that increase last year. And ours is a dollar amount in your CBA, and we gave the whole increase. So then when we come back now, you know, we're not getting more money from the state or the feds for insurance. Like, they don't take any of that into account when we get our money. So that's the frustrating piece and why we need that trust so badly. Because there's no adjustment for the district in terms of the money we receive to try and keep up with these insurance rates.
And so that's where then that MOU with the 2 and 2 just kind of also safeguards you all in terms of insurance kind of moving forward into the future. You know, with this, like if we said, you know, that kind of that kickback to you is as you know, and if you're not aware, we have to have a signed MOU from the association by May 15th in order to be able.
And I think that's changed.
Oh, really?
Yep, I think you just have to commit to meeting the amount of 41
Required.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
and we just found that out last week too, and I can send you that information.
Christy, if you could, that would be
Perfect.
fabulous. Yes,
Yep, because I just sent it out to all my locals
Okay.
as well.
that'd be
Apparently-
wonderful.
Apparently, there's just a check mark that you have to check somewhere.
That you're gonna be able to meet this
That,
threshold.
well, that you are making a commitment to try to meet.
Sure,
And I don't like that either, because
Sure.
it makes it sound like school districts are just gonna say, well, you're
Sure.
not gonna commit and then get the money.
Well, and didn't it sound like in that same memo, didn't it say something like, and then if you didn't have to pay it back?
Yeah, if
Yeah,
you
so-
say that you're committed for this year, they'll pull, the amounts from, I can't remember if it was, I don't remember where it was from, unemployment, that doesn't sound right. But all districts will be able to keep that money for this first year, but then if they don't make it, they don't get it for the next year.
okay,
And that, but I will certainly send that to you.
that'd be great.
Yeah, MFPEs, our position is that, you know, we're going to, I hate to say discourage that MOU mainly because of the changes in the bill. And that, and the other thing with the bill is, at one point they had talked about it possibly only being able to be used for salary. I haven't heard whether or not that has been changed. They just heard HB 252 yesterday in the Senate committee. Did you listen
Yep.
to it all? Yep. I got sidetracked on it, so I didn't get to see. I think they didn't table it, but they didn't vote to, okay.
They didn't have any opposed at the
They
time,
didn't.
They hadn't pushed forward anymore.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Yeah, so we're just kind of, I hate to say, we're just kind of waiting. We're hoping that it will happen before May 15th, which it's got to, because legislation ends
Right,
first week of May. And so we'll know more by then, but yeah, I'd be happy to send you that email
okay.
and that with just our bullet points and things, okay?
Yep.
So, yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, but it's good to know all the factors, but that, you know, and regardless, even if they say you don't have to have it, like maybe now by the 15th, but you have to meet that threshold, that MOU that we had still is meeting that threshold, as you know, and takes into account potential insurance along with where we felt like, regardless of the 15th or not, it still is that said monetary amount, correct, Moses? So it still kind of pencils out, like, and you saw, Christine, when you ran that.
Yep.
Where we would be in the positive versus the negative.
Do you have Montana School Board Association? Do you talk to Chris Goss? It is, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And I think Chris now is no longer there, right?
Oh, isn't he? Okay,
He's working independently in Helena now,
okay,
but like Tony Koenig,
yep, okay.
yep,
And we
yep, so I
usually
work with
deal,
Tony.
a lot with Andy Seaver in Great Falls. He's got
Mhm.
the Great Falls area, so he comes in every once in a while.
Yep,
And
yep.
as well, so.
yep, and Lance, you know,
Yep.
Lance will definitely give us any.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but and
Yep.
if you hear anything different, let
Okay.
me know as well,
Yep.
because we're all kind of in the
Right.
shadows and.
I know, right? So,
Keep it up with the other.
yes, yep.
And this was from our research director, Kim Popham, which if you
I know,
watched
yeah.
yesterday, yep.
She used to teach in Stevensville.
Okay, yeah.
No
all right, yeah. She was down in Belgrade, I think, or Bozeman for a while, and then she took this job a little over a year and a half ago.
Yep.
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 Okay, perfect. All right, sorry. Keep having insurance.
And that potentially, when that goes, is a huge win for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Because you can imagine then when it comes to forecasting this type of situation, which is, it's great for everyone. We've got an idea that 2 to 3% every year, so we can then, when we come to the table, like this, we have a better idea of realistically what we're going. So, okay. All right, and then we kind of addressed number 8, that last one, which was on.
Oh,
Yep. So do we want to do this? Do we want to maybe meet as a group? And we'll just kind of talk for, yep,
Like right now, or?
yeah,
Okay.
Me as a group,
yep.
okay, coming that way here on out, you come back in here.
No.
Yep, and then after that discussion, maybe we'd call probably good for the night.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you guys for.
I do.
Yeah, that's it. I haven't seen anything.
if you didn't get copy ways, it's not gonna be, yeah, how did we went on track for slides, and we started.
Oh, and maybe that's a procedure that,
I'm sorry, I understand.
it looks like there's 2 now. So you either comply with the STARS Act or you have the MO.
Okay, this was
Yeah.
last week though. Okay, we're agreed to an MOU.
Negotiating, forgot.
Necessary for compliance.
There was one little piece.
On your proposal, district negotiation proposal, we never really talked about this. That was the,
It was
it
the-
to section 10.4.
Yeah, it's ordained visions about the add in the 7th period for 6 through 12.
Yes,
That's
thank
what we
you.
would like.
Yes,
Well, so, I mean, I think that's great, but I think that I don't think the teachers should be forced to do it. I think they should have the right to decline. And what it says here is, which would require an instructor to do 7 periods per day. That was kind of I interpret it as, hey, we can require somebody and we'll pay them more, which, but I think if the teacher had the option to not teach that 7th period, I think that's fine.
So you're saying if a teacher agrees to teach a 7th period a day, then they would get the 1.7.
Yeah, that's all, yeah.
Yeah.
I know it, yeah, because it already says that in the rest of the CBA too, I guess, but I just read would require, and I'm going, I'll have to.
Right.
Some principal's gonna go in there and do it.
Because I know I would pull my hair out in college.
sure.
I can teach 7th period and I pull my hair.
No, I think that could be a good, and Holly and I were just, as you know, certain shortages, kind of looking for options.
Right.
And when I was the teacher down in California, I think we had it that it was if you agree upon.
I think.
Then you receive that rate, because it was a fair deal.
Think that's fine.
Now, when I was a young teacher with a young kid, I was like, heck yes, I'll
Right.
take bus. Right, and boom, I got
I
this.
think they did that in Box Elder. I think so.
I know Billings has done it for a really long time.
Yeah, I think they did that with Taylor. They were gonna give her the extra period worth of money for music, and I was like, God bless you.
Yeah, but maybe just kind of
Maybe
adjust.
apply for class.
Yes, just the language.
Nobody wants to take it over there.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thank you for bringing that up. So on your language on this, Holly, so it sounds like, Kristen and Lorraine, the latest one that we had from Lance was that you either need to meet kind of that threshold that we've been talking about, which we do, or have a signed MOU. So that,
Have you done negotiations for the 15th of
So
May?
they don't have to sign an MOU then.
Well, it says or agree to an MOU outlining the terms necessary for compliance. Sorry.
like maybe how you're gonna get there.
Well, we already
We
complied,
already
right?
do, we already do.
So
We do.
that would be an easy one because we our salary base starts at that level. So all we would have to do on them, you truly is have it say, our current CBA already complies with the STARS Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did they get an additional 1/7 pay? And then because all the insurance, and everything is set.
Yeah.
They just need them.
Yeah, it just would be, so, I know like when I did, yep, you just get that additional, but the ones I've seen have, a lot of times have been, agreed. Hasn't necessarily been
That sounds
mandatory.
good.
Yeah, just, if that works for you, because, certainly depending on the situation, that may not work if, you're teaching all upper level math and you said there's no way that.
Right.
I got credit for this.
Yeah.
Totally get it, right? So that, I think that one
I think
makes
that
sense.
makes sense.
Mhm.
And we were in a situation this year where if it would have aligned perfectly schedule wise, we had teacher who was willing to do that. Especially and it would have been really nice to be able to have this in place and stuff, trying to determine what the salary.
So, do you want to go back to the proposal piece? How do you wanna attack these ones? Do you want to kind of review from the top on these and kind of check through and see where we're at? And try to determine-
What we've done in the past, once we've gotten to this point, and I think this works really well to protect the district, is that we've offered package offers.
Okay.
So we've said, here's the wage, here's the insurance, and here's maybe one of these things that you want. You can accept all of it, or if you don't, it's all off the table.
Okay.
Because the more we've agreed to a lot of things and we barely got one of our things agreed to and we only asked for 2 things. So, if this is a give and take in negotiations, and so I feel like we've agreed to a lot of things and a lot of changes, but our pain points are, the support Friday stuff.
Go away. Yeah.
The pain point is the 60 hours. And what was our other one? The discretionary days and the, sick day thing. So I kind of feel like our next offer coming back to them almost needs to be some sort of package that we put together to say, is this appealing to you? Would you accept this? Because if we keep negotiating on all of these things.
Because they brought a lot to the table.
Exactly. And we're getting down to a point where we're a long way apart on
Yeah.
salary. 5%, we just can't do.
Right, 100%.
And I feel like we were really kind of transparent about we can do 2 per year. That puts us at 90% of the general fund. And I don't think we can go over that.
And like a lot of these where we have, on some of these simple ones where we agree, even if we have consideration, we're just kind of here. Yeah.
Great, yeah, great.
Yes, but this has been, I think, insightful because then you've been able to give us maybe some more clarification, but I like where you're at too, Kristen, to say maybe with all of this, because like Holly, when we talked over here, she, was kind of like, well, the big standing point would be support practice, right?
What's that? Yeah. And I think they made a commitment to the district, to the community, that we will have 4-day week with 2 support Fridays a month.
That was their proposal.
Yeah.
And they brought that calendar.
And that's where I tried to kind of bend to them and say, but you did pitch this. Right, like, because this was, even now, if those extra hours are a fact, you guys said this is what you want to do.
Right,
So,
right. So I took offense to the fact that they felt like it was a bait and switch because
I did too.
that was their calendar. I mean, we didn't switch anything.
Yeah.
So,
And some things are gonna remain to be determined by the district, you know. They don't get to say on that, you know, that's kind of where we are. We have to answer to the public.
and I'm in agreement with Lorraine and Tim kind of was this way last time too, is that, I mean, we have between 600 and 700 students that are consistently coming to our support Fridays. We did that survey on the calendar committee and it was overwhelming that the parents want the support Fridays. So I also feel like we can't keep coming to this negotiation table and figuring out how can we work less? Because we can't do less and less every time. It just doesn't work that way. And I feel like we are fighting a battle on a local, state, and federal level to say public school matters. This is important and our kids need it. And if we're saying that out of one side of our mouth, we can't turn around and say that we're gonna do less and less work. That we need less public school.
Yes,
I apologize. On that 5% salary schedule, the bottom 6, we did not readjust that because I think the salary schedule does the 5-5-1, and so yeah, those top numbers are not correct. I apologize. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, that's.
Well, and you know, when Craig was here, they could have gotten MA +2, and they didn't want it.
Yeah, there's all those things to consider. Now, one about Krista and Lorraine, as we kind of talk through this, the piece of like, and I think the idea of rolling out a package thing is perfect. In order to protect, let's say maybe the support Fridays and the time with the kids, because that's at the end of the day, what we're after is right for community. I think it's maybe we could look at the adjustment just outside of. Because if we drop down the 1 day, like we talked about. Right? So the dropping down of the 1 day to 180.
And potentially people to,
Does that make sense? Because we need to be in the
those
money.
support Fridays. Conference days. And then that is the below threshold.
Yeah.
You're already below the threshold of the 15, according to their.
It's really want them to participate in, go like the committee work and some of those others.
But that's their 60 hours outside the 15.
Well, and I don't know what the teachers did on the science curriculum, but you know, I'm sure they had to do some.
Well, and there's a lot of work that goes on in between meetings. I mean, they're putting a lot of time in, that's
Yeah.
not a dedicated meeting, they're working on multiple areas.
Would there be, do you think, a place of, we kept, we know we do the 1 day to gets us to there, but then we keep all of the supports, and we said, what if we dump down the Holly getting in that hour threshold of the 60, could we drop that number down a little bit, because we're still protecting the support Fridays
Yeah.
with, you know what I mean? And Kristen, like you're saying, we rolled then that whole with one package. Hey, we're gonna protect support Fridays.
And I guess like looking at kind of along those lines too, I mean, one of the things that they have on proposal 8 that they would consider is make support Fridays mandatory for students and shorten school year. I'm curious what your thoughts are on that, because it gets them something they want. It gets the tier 3 kids there, maybe not always, but potentially more. It addresses maybe some of the inequity that they have issues with. And it doesn't require us to change our number of days or our school calendar that the board has already approved. I mean, granted, we're taking away that PIR day because it was
Right.
over
It was over.
what we had.
Yeah, based on when it was given, yeah.
But I think that that might be something, and I'm curious what your thoughts are. I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there because it's on their list of things under proposal 8 that they will list as an option.
It's almost though, like if you did the mandatory, you'd almost have to though be teaching the whole time. When you would,
Right.
support Fridays would become each of a
A
previous
short
school day.
And how,
Really
then
would
do
be
you
what
do
it
a
would be.
block schedule? For the high school, they can't do a 25-minute
Yeah.
period. That's true. That was my only thought. The 60 hours a week too, or the 60 hours per year, there's 42 school weeks. That's giving you an hour and a half for meetings. Mhm. Beyond the 42. I mean, or,
Yeah.
but, or before school, or, whatever you have your staff meetings, but usually you have a staff meeting one week and grade level the next. You just rotate, so you have at least one meeting every single week. But, so,
Yeah. And that was one of the things they said they wanted 2 years ago, was more of that collaboration, meeting time and all of those things with the Support Friday schedule.
The other pinch in that would be if we designated, maybe we dropped down a support per quarter almost to be collaborative time. So maybe it wasn't losing, because we have what, did we have 15 support Fridays? Yeah. We have 15. So what if you said, okay, well, we're going to give you one per quarter to collaborate, to use that, and we're gonna keep 11 sports. You know what I mean? Just as a variable. It still wouldn't necessarily, like you're saying, Kristen, it wouldn't change the calendar that much, but it might give a little.
What do they do right now when you want to meet with teachers on like Friday? Do they do it from 11:30 to 12:30 or?
students only.
Yeah.
And like the elementary, we have a rotating basis of 45 minutes for teachers where their students are at 3 different specials in a row, but you still have to run into different ones. So you don't get a lot of time. And like everybody gets 45 minutes in the K-5 row, pretty much.
But isn't the way our schools are aligned with, K and first grade at Island Park, isn't that, being collaborating right there? I don't know.
You mean just having time with other teachers that are teaching?
But you don't ever get any time with the same grade levels. I mean, other than after school, after students leave. Because you can only have so many 4 specials. And you have to rotate all of your 13 classes through.
Oh, okay.
So they don't really get that time. We used to before, because we would have grade level teams twice a week, and they were for like an hour at a time, and the students went to school meets and typing, and then the other time they were, those were taught by the things.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what
we did
the
a lot of
that's change Kristen on the one on the variable is to say, could we build in time to have those again? But now, because we've already abbreviated the number of instruction days and stuff like that, it's a different ask than it was then. Because we've lost X amount of days, right? Like, so that's the difference in when you could do that a little easier because you had.
Well, and we had to get rid of it because you can't have the parents teaching the students, and then you pay them another $20.
We used to have like every Wednesday, right? We were out at like 2:30. So then that became the time for them.
Right.
But you had a 5-day school week, so you had more flexibility to do that.
Yeah.
So you always ended at 2:30 so that you could spend an hour and a half meeting them.
That's what Kalispell schools do.
Billings does it. Wednesdays, they get out at like 1.
Wednesdays, yeah.
This Wednesday.
I guess, I mean, I'm hesitant to cut for support Fridays because that's almost a third of our support Fridays. And again, I think it'd be different if our kids weren't coming, if the parents said, you know, this doesn't really matter to me, but I just, it's like Lorraine said, I feel like there was a commitment made, we all got on board, and now, and the parents are on board. And, you know, that was one of the things we heard is like, please do not change, do not keep changing the schedule on us, do not keep.
Which is great feedback.
Yeah.
So let's put this one out there then. If that was one, which we have, I mean, I really, this past 2 years, when we went out and surveyed parents or had feedback, they really are on kind of on board with this. If we say maybe the way to get to the package is to safeguard the things that we want, and then look, are there the adjustments in the other? Maybe that's how we get to the best package to offer. Would that be fair? Feel like, so if we said, if for us, our main things are the sports, in keeping with the 2-and-2 plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2% and 2% plan is our main gifts, which allows for the insurance as well. Is there another main one that we see that we want to keep? That is a main staple that we want to keep.
I mean, one of my things is, and this is just as a parent,
Okay.
like for the 60 hours, I don't know if that 60 hours is needed every year, or if, like we said earlier, if maybe we can adjust that.
Maybe that's an.
But as a parent, it's really disheartening to go to parent-teacher conferences or art night or whatever, and to have teachers not be there. And so I guess like,
I agree.
I feel like if that's something that's being asked and that's in a contract that if we're gonna cut this to 50 hours or 40 hours or whatever, if we're looking at cutting it, I feel like then you are expected to be there and do.
But I think it's in there, you can't do anything after the 5 p.m. except for conferences.
Right, that's true. But like for the curriculum meetings or something like that, I guess, or if it was just after school, you know, I think that would be good, but again, I would be willing to look at something other than 60 if we don't feel like we need the 60, but maybe we do, I don't know.
I think about how the last couple of years, it's been meetings are like 45 minutes, 5 o'clock, you know. Like 15.
The other thing that I heard when I asked principals about this calendar was, well, this was 2 years ago, was like that those 60 hours could get used for, you know, from 4 to 5, we are having a building staff meeting or something like that. And I don't know if they get used that way. It sounds like maybe they don't, or for collaboration time or whatever.
Well, Sunny said they get out, they have like 5 minutes between when the kids are done and they can.
Okay.
But they do anything they do.
And Kraski does that at my school because before.
So that comes into
That's still-
60 hours.
Doesn't give you a lot of time.
No,
Doesn't.
how often are staff meetings? Twice a month, once a month?
Usually.
Kraski does
Yeah.
it weekly.
Yeah, he does it every week. I think we do. I always did 2 staff meetings a month and 2 grade levels a month. So we met every week. And then like Tuesdays were I was MTSS and Thursdays were I was this. I mean, to get everything in, every initiative that the district does and asks for, you're meeting every night but the last day of the week. And the one Monday of the month where you don't have HEA meetings, but they might be meetings. Like there wasn't a night that I didn't have meetings ever.
Okay, so maybe a lot of these 60 hours are being used then for those type of.
And not everybody's on a person. No.
Right.
And back to when you have more than 50% of the teachers, or almost 50% of teachers missing more than 10 days, that concerns me.
So
I mean, and how do you do that? How do you patrol your own peers You know, I don't know.
The hard part is, and I've watched this before, it was one that, never, the discretionary days were never brought in to see who's what the streets on. It's because it's a Pandora's box once you have it in there.
Cause you basically had sick leave and paid time off.
Get sick leave, yep. You had,
Vacation.
and yep, and for us as like administrators, we had our 12 sick days a year, and then we had 5 per.
Yeah.
That was it, right? And it was a deal we did count. The extra caveat of 15 discretionary days, and then you have sick days on top of that, and, you know.
I think that's, it was pretty close to that here in the teachers. No, it's 5 or so, for sure.
So that's a tough one, like I said, Lorraine, because then they can choose to leave on that time to extend a long weekend already, and they are.
Yeah. I just remember looking forward to negotiate teachers convention and the
Right.
February, the president's birthday. And I mean, those were just, we had a 3-day weekend. It was just, and you know.
I know.
And we haven't had President's Day for at least 5 years.
Uh-huh.
Our kids always miss President's Day because Ben and I have it all.
So we did our concert just because a lot of parents had it.
Yeah. But, you know, two Fridays a month, or they have a 3-day weekend, you know.
Those supports and the financial package, we've got are the ones that we want to hold the line with.
What were the thoughts on taking those 2 total support Fridays as Conference Day? And then having them come in for 1 extra day?
For elementary.
To do it like the high school does.
Do you think parents will come on a Friday morning?
That was not in Great Falls when we did conferences, we did them Wednesday, as soon as the kids left, we started doing that from 3 to 7. And then we did them all day on Thursday till 5.
Okay.
And I usually have 95 to 100%.
Okay.
So that's the only place I've ever had waived up during the day. And I thought there's no way. And a parent showed up and said, "Wait, I rode the bus so I could get here." And, you know, he's like, "Let's make your spirit teacher conference another one, Jim." But, you know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Because like if, as parents, I mean, we would do whatever we could to be able to get there.
Yeah, I do, and like what they were saying about not having enough time to meet with all the parents, like for Lane's conferences, I went to sign up and every single slot was taken. So I had to ask, I had to be one of the parents that asked for, you know, is there another time that you could meet with me? So if we could, you know, I would be open to looking at something like that if it was part of a package. You know, like we would like to keep these, but we would consider these too. I would be open to something like that. I don't know how you feel about that.
Yeah, you know, I feel for the elementary teachers getting out the same day as the kids, and if they come back, it's, you know. I mean, they don't get paid for it. What's that?
Because everybody's hauling their stuff out and trying to do, and you try to build in so many things. And you do red carpet awards and a picnic lunch and, you know, different types of activities that make it fun. And you still try to do some educational, but.
So if you did conferences.
But if you might Friday.
Then maybe that would give them 1 extra day to. I
It's
mean,
not that I need Fridays off.
No, and so that would keep the calendar the same. I guess for not maybe parents, but their kids wouldn't go.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
for the students. A lot of the high school, and I'm sure the middle school,
And that's a,
they're ready to go at 3 o'clock, 3:30, and, you know.
and that's where I'm trying to kind of look at this to say, if we hold the ones that we know is best for kids and the big picture of what we want. But there's other ones like this that are maybe gives that aren't where we feel is detrimental. Is that an easy way to create a package that gets done?
Well, like, one of the things I looked at before I came today is I looked at the strategic plan and some of our initiatives, and one of our big things is parent involvement in our kids' education. And so, you know, maybe this could be a trial to say, see, can we get more parents to come? If in the elementary schools, those are, you know, teacher conference mornings. You know, something like that. But I mean, kind of going with that too, with the supports is like, we have really kind of big goals for math and reading growth and things like that. And I don't want to see us cutting time that we're teaching kids.
And we can weave that into, because some of the requests on, you know, where it kind of talks the language of shoring up expectation of the supports. You know, that funnels into what we're after. So, I mean, I think that's doable in conversations with, it's like how we now have, you know, made efforts to kind of shore up the handbooks, and we do make efforts to planning for support Fridays. You know, as you go through the process, you can continue to make it better, which feeds into that. So that's not.
Can I ask a question? What does that support Friday look like for the high school and middle school then? It's off.
You know, my grandson, he's a sophomore. And if he's been sick, he comes in and makes up tests or makes up work. Or he could always go down to the band room because, you know, he loves band. And
Well, if we make it so that it's matched with the high school and middle school, so you had a record state. We'd all just have the same.
But that support Friday, what does that support Friday look like?
Yeah, because then we're saying, okay, now our high school kids aren't going to school either.
Yeah.
Could you make it?
Well,
Okay.
maybe
Or
that's
do
where
they-
that's where that piece changes though.
Could you make that a conference time for the middle school and high school?
That's what I'm saying.
too? Because
Maybe that's where that piece changes.
I have to tell you guys, middle school parent teacher conferences are tomorrow night, and I dread them. They're one of the worst. Yes, they are one of the worst experiences I have ever had
Really,
in a school setting.
Really?
I feel bad saying that. But I spent 3 hours there the last time, and I saw 2 teachers. The one teacher, I stopped at her classroom, she had nobody in there, and she had her back to the door on her cell phone. And I came back twice and still on her cell phone. It was, I mean, you have people backed up 8 to 10 people deep to talk to some of those teachers.
Especially your core.
It's, I mean, one of them,
it's because then they're not scheduled, right?
no, they're not scheduled, and I got there right when it started at 4:50.
Did you have 500 students at the high school?
well, and oftentimes you're seeing the good kids as parents, you know?
It would,
Well, I've got an idea to
What do you-
solve this.
Yeah.
They're not, I don't know necessarily, but if they would be the biggest fanfare of this, we'd have to kind of talk to the principals, but I did do that from the middle school and high school in the advisory period, is you scheduled your conferences based on your advisory class, right, for set times. And so they were all in this, but I mean, we were giving 90+% parent attendance rate, but they were scheduled in for those blocks of time so that system can occur. Now, granted, conferences were all in the gymnasium. So you have, then you go and, and you had these set times so you could see everybody that were there, so they weren't just in their classrooms and stuff. But there is a way to make those conferences work substantially smoother. We would just have to adjust how we currently do it.
So then they only had one teacher.
So here's-
The advisory teacher.
So here's how this went. So we did a standard conference in the fall that was just like you normally would, right? And in the spring, it was student led. So the students in the advisory class then went through their grades with their parents. So you had scheduled 15-minute blocks, and at the end of the 15-minute block, right, so you go 15, 30, 45, in that last 15-minute window, because everyone's in the gym, you could go around and visit with individual teachers about your students' needs. So you could still get actually a scheduled time to go through your child's portfolio, see their stuff, and have time to visit openly with other teachers. So we did that both in middle school and high school. And the parents loved it 8,000 times.
Cause like
Than standing outside
Yeah.
for 50 minutes and not getting it.
I stood in line for a math teacher for 45 minutes and a parent next to me, she stood there just as long and she's a very involved parent and she said, I will never come again. And I couldn't really blame her because, I mean, everybody's kind of having this experience, so.
And high school used to be in the gym 4 years ago.
Yes.
And it was a bit awkward because they were all on tables and everything, and then you're sitting here having a conversation with the teacher and the next teacher's right here. I mean, you're this far apart to get
Yeah.
everybody in it. And so you don't have any privacy either.
But if it meant coming in on a Friday morning that I could do something like that and I had a set
Yeah.
time, I would absolutely do that at the middle school or the high school, yeah. So I don't know if that messes you up at the middle school or high school.
Well, and
Or
because
if
of
it
those
worth it, but-
conferences, that was why you got the Wednesday off before Thanksgiving.
That's what that says.
Yep.
Yep, it's teacher and service day.
And I mean, how nice that we have a 2-day week and then Thanksgiving. I mean, that just is great.
So let's do this in an effort of time,
Okay.
right, for everyone. So let's just kind of, if we kind of back bend through this real quick, and then maybe what we can do is, knowing the ones that we want to kind of hold on to, Holly and I can sit down with Beth and then kind of create a package deal maybe before the next one. Does that sound good? We'll kind of bounce it off of our team before kind of going into that. But, so we know where we're at with the MOU. If we look at the teacher's workday and conditions, Holly, so that kind of meets that requirement, but it gives the piece of, I put down agrees to the 1.7, right? So we can adjust that. So then that's done, that's a check. And then if we look at proposal number 5, language of K-5 teachers, we agreed upon that, so that's done. They agreed that, yeah, we're not gonna touch that one. A lot of travel time, well, we talked about then where maybe if we can't make that work on a transition with that, maybe we would bump them a threshold.
I can see
My
where,
concern is ever tying anything to the travel stipend in here because it's outside from.
It's true. So do
you
you think,
have to pay taxes on that.
so do you think maybe the one with this would be just to say, because we're adjusting the travel stipend, we just take this out completely?
This language about travel.
I would guess that some people are hit more than others, like cold.
Especially specialists, major specialists, that we have people who travel to 3 different buildings.
Yeah.
So I like that too, because it is not in the CPA, so maybe let's just say, we'll just X this one out.
And on an individual basis, like Ron talked about last year, it was during her lunch. And so at the end of the day, I said, you can be 30 minutes early.
There you go.
You didn't do it. That should can be it's ran by you, they agreed.
And we're making a concerted effort to change the threshold. Okay, so we'll keep that one out. The faculty parking, we agree that's not gonna happen. Okay, so that one's done. The discretionary days, allow the sick bank to be used with doctor's note. I feel like they have, their days are really good. I just feel like that's not even only in their day. They already have an amazing amount of days.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'll just say, we're gonna say no to that. And then we look at, okay, so then going to number.
Attendance stipend.
Attendance stipend.
I don't know how I lost mine.
On the back. On the back of, for the back.
How did I put it back? I got some.
I know, I was like.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, thank you. Okay, so number 3, the attendance stipend. Are you guys okay with the
So we
MOAs?
said just the MHSA.
Yeah, just for like MOAs.
And I mean, like,
Rest for
Okay.
tournaments.
Jane Line one, her husband
Yeah,
is, perfect example.
The thing, I liked about it was it's limited to 2 days.
yes.
It's not, just open however
No.
many times they sign up to ref. It's limited to 2 days. And I want to recognize that, like I said earlier, we have a shortage of reps and, you know, especially if we're hosting tournaments that, you know, benefits our district to host those tournaments too. So, I mean, I would be amenable to McKinney's proposal that he, you know,
Because it
At the
is,
state level.
yeah, because you only vote at the state level.
MOA officials.
Yep, MOA officials, so we're okay with that. And then the other part is look at changing attendance stipend twice, we already agreed on that, so that's done. Proposal number 2, we're gonna hold the 60 additional hours, don't you feel, Holly? Because that, when you started talking through all those meeting times, to me, that made a lot of sense with conferences, because that's also tied in into our conferences, correct?
No,
Or, I mean, but that's, so that's over the top.
conferences are additional. But you get that day
Yes, so that's where the
for
gift is,
the
right?
Thanksgiving and you get the day at the
The
end.
end of the year.
Okay, but not including that 60 hours is additional for staff meetings, for committee meetings, IEPs, okay? And those IEPs and all those are important, so
Yeah.
let's keep that.
Well, and you do what's convenient for the parent, you know, if
Right,
that's.
You have to
just
have
the
the
way
way
it is. What?
The parent has to be able to do that.
Yep.
we're eliminating the 1 PR because we have to, that makes sense, okay? So the proposals and the 7th one, that is all done. The part we wanted to hold on to in,
That bottom part of proposal 2.
what's that?
That bottom part of proposal 2.
the second paragraph.
Oh. I think we can probably adjust who's on the teams. What do you think, Holly?
It's on a 5-year rotating basis, so it's fine for middle school, high school, because they're departmental. But your K-5 teachers, you ask every year and you potentially get the same people every year. So if they want that to be on a rotating basis with the teachers, then they assign the rotating basis.
The principals. Would you say, Holly?
I'm just looking, where in, this is 1.4B, but I don't see that we have language in the CBA about curriculum committees. So I guess, I mean, sometimes when we're talking about these and they have concerns, I feel like their concerns are valid, but they don't necessarily warrant language in a CBA.
Kind of like we talked about with the drought.
Right, and maybe just common sense. I don't know if you can say.
Maybe it's,
right.
or maybe it's a commitment to say, we hear what you're saying, we recognize this, we'll, you know, try and work with.
Or that means people have to be willing to try something,
Great.
too, because whether a new teacher they shouldn't have.
So I guess, do you want it,
You were mandated to.
because do you want it in the CBA that they have to choose and require?
Yeah, I think so too. I think this falls under that track, the second one.
Yeah.
It's just not part of the CV, so it's not even.
Right.
Okay.
And we can always try, and I keep track of who's on every committee each year. So I can say, hey, they've been on.
Right, and we have super good principals, you know. There were years we had some.
Like when Brian and I went to MSL, the guy was talking about how you have yes people. And a lot of times the people on your curriculum committees, I can tell on the couple I've served on, they're your yes people that are like, hey, I'll help with that, you know? And so I think that's also a good thing. That you have yes people.
Well, then on this one, on the bottom, if we kind of work through, they're just additional thoughts. We could probably scrape off this bottom one right here, Holly, because that's already tied into sports. So we're gonna hold.
Which page are you on?
No, so now we're moving past the proposals.
Oh, you're on the first page.
Yeah, so if we go back to the top and we start from the back side of it, where they had the 25, 26.
Are these still
40.
even a consideration since they have the 8?
Oh, okay, right here.
I mean, I don't, are these even consideration anymore? Because they gave us these proposals today.
Well, it could be a question to ask. I mean, these are all these little supplemental pieces.
These were more the feedback from the survey. I feel like they weren't, here's our 3 things we're most interested in.
The thing is, we did agree to some of these. So we'll need to kind of just keep the ones we did, like the daycare piece. So we kind of maybe do need to move through
Yeah.
a few of them.
So
Sorry, Lorraine, go ahead.
do the people that do the daycare, do they automatically work full day on Fridays? So if the teacher wants to stay and work,
Well, we kind of talked about that with Rose. and we had-
No, I think they're like the 45 minutes before and after contract time.
I mean, some of these, I feel like we shouldn't make a decision on right now because we need some flexibility in terms of how many rounds this goes. So if we think it's something we're considering, I think we should still consider it, but maybe not make a decision on it right now. And look at it at a future date if that's something that we need to do.
I think that sounds good. So we just quickly cruise through these all
Okay.
back in. So this bottom one, we're just gonna X out. Does that sound good? Because we're gonna make a decision on sports on 25, 26.
Yeah.
Because we're not gonna entertain. Do we want to still consider the November situation
I'm on the wrong page. I mean,
and March
Wrong
sports?
page too.
So if it's on the back of starting, as we're working back through the proposals that we did. Yep, so then go to,
take November and March.
All right.
yep, so we Xed out this bottom because we're gonna keep the supports, right? So then on like you're saying, Kristen, so take November and March supports for Friday, make them conference days, is that one we're still maybe considering potentially?
I would potentially.
Okay, so we'll just say consider on this one. Okay, then the other one is the specials in the elementary, 2 or 3 classes combined, so it's hard to get anything done.
She said not a hill to die on, you're fine.
Okay, exit out. School calendar, find creative way, and we just adjusted the 1 PIR. So we're just doing that.
Okay, which one are you on now?
So moving back Lorraine from here, so now we're here.
Oh,
The school calendar, because we Xed out this stuff, that's not gonna happen. So school calendar, find creative way. We just, the only one we want to adjust with this was to reduce the 1 PIR, right?
So it's a done deal with him.
I think we just,
I think they've got to accept that there's some things.
Yeah.
That the superintendent says, and that's never been changed over 45 years, you know?
Well, and we honestly just can't do that.
Yeah.
The math
It
doesn't
ties-
work out.
no, and it ties into what we have a philosophy with. So we'll just put that there. The
And
fourth
if you're
year,
really gonna change the calendar, you wanna push it back.
yeah,
It's too hot.
no, no.
Yeah.
This, the bubble point above that, we're not gonna listen to the 1482, that's just, we don't need to even deal with that statement moving forward.
Oh, okay. That fall,
Yes,
so do away with 5 full Fridays.
yeah, and do away with 5 full Fridays. We're gonna keep those. The red statement I have where it says keep 5 full Fridays. Don't you guys agree? That we don't then just change and dump those
Yeah,
Fridays and all of a sudden we have a 3-day work week.
If we do that, then we have to add in 5 more days to it.
That's what I was just gonna say, that's why they were right.
Yeah.
So we'll scratch that one too. So we'll scratch Lorraine this, both of those bubbles, because we're gonna keep it as we've decided. And the only one coming out of this is adjusting PIR, that 1 day. Support Fridays could be half staff. We decided that's not one we want to do, correct?
No.
Keep it for the kids. Okay. Student engagement on support Fridays, doesn't give any major now. Special ed is not pulling, and we talked about then the cohesive plan, maybe looking at, that's one where we could kind of discuss and say, hey, if there's a possibility of having IEP, so this is one we can probably keep with adjustments.
Well, and
That
I
would make
think,
them happy.
again, they had good input on stuff that maybe could work better on the supports. I just don't think it's necessarily language we would put in a CBA. So like
Correct.
on the SPED piece and even.
That's not CPA.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and even on like student engagement being more consistent, I think that's great feedback. It just doesn't really go in our CBA.
You could do one more, before we get to high school and do the first 3 hours and second 3 hours, so each of them gets 1 hour. The health department needs 2 hours. And that makes it in my own closer to elementary,
And when we sit down, like for,
there's no overlap.
yeah, no, that's okay. I think when we sit down then for that package deal coming back, we can have just, like you're saying, Holly, to identifying the proposals that are CBA orientated, that is the package coming back. And then maybe another little section we could have,
That are just takeaways.
yes, takeaways from proof. Does that sound good?
Yeah, just say we hear you, we
We hear you,
recognize this
right.
is great feedback, but just so they're important.
Yeah.
Does that sound good, Beth?
Yeah.
So that way we kind of separate those out, and I think it makes them, which is important,
Yeah.
right? We're getting the takeaway, we're getting feedback to improve, but at the same time, here's the package that impacts the CBA.
Right. This is what's best for kids.
Yes, yep, yep, okay. And then the Halloween one, again, that's just language, agreed. Curriculum could be considered on Sport Fridays.
But that's not, that's the.
No, all, both those are. Okay, and this, and the curriculum one again is just language we consider.
But we can't do it every support Friday either, because then you don't have teachers.
Right. We agreed to the daycare one. That one's an easy one. And then what did you think on this last one? Then we'll call them in. Make some cool Sport Fridays like stiff day 10 max. Because that one would be then CBA. Mhm. Okay, it is, isn't it?
You're on which one, the top bullet?
The very top bullet, yeah.
I think this, to me, one of the major pain points. And so I think that it should be, continue to be considered on this
TBD.
one.
Okay, consideration, we'll keep it there. Fabulous.
May I go get them?
Sounds wonderful, thank you.
I almost think we should have just dismissed them and then.
I know,
Yeah.
I do too now that we're here. I do too now that we're here, but.
It's not too late, I'm just.
I know. It is what it is, but I think we made some really good progress with this because we also identified what is going to be. I love the idea of the package coming back that meets the contract and what are takeaways that we can say, hey, we could look at this for the future. This is good things to maybe improve our district. So,
And, you know, for all the times I was on negotiation, it was a package deal. You know, we had their Rick DeVue, who was I don't know what he was, but you know, that's, you didn't get everything you wanted, but you maybe got a 2% raise or, yeah. Mhm. Yes, yes.
it's a way.
About the middle school.
No.
Well, I've got a way to make that.
Thank you.
Let me tell you, Chris, I kind of heard this part to make it better. It's-
I sat waiting for someone, and I will not mention the name, but he could possibly be in this room at one point. They were talking about football coaching, and I was waiting for my parents' teacher conference, and it was like 15 minutes to 7. Oh, everything's
we're putting the ball.
on then, great, like the one, I will give it 45 minutes, and I got there, and she goes, her grades are good, everything is going well, and nothing to talk about. And I was like,
You're like this, you know, say.
Give you the section back. Oh, didn't touch it. Well, I did touch it, but I didn't. touch it. Yeah, but so like I said, there's a reason on my eyes.
That's really good.
Maybe that's because we have the end from this kind of question, one is a 2%.
True. Everybody's got their.
So we changed it.
Yeah, the new one was 2.
That was one of the questions.
Yeah.
It's not what the band was.
Most current.
Well, after sleeping, I said, oh, I don't think
Yeah, I think the 4 was looking at visual years. I think this was like in.
there's a piece of paper right there. You have to get it.
Okay, so quickly, so we can all roll and get out of here. So on the MOU, I had Rebecca put in the, just for clarification, so that it has 2% for fiscal years 26 and 27 versus on the one that had just a gap where we were kind of trying to decide what that might be. And then one thought was, well, we'd say a total of 4%, but so the 2% would be 2% for each year. So for, next year, for 25, 26 school year, fiscal year 26, and 26, 27 fiscal year.
Yeah, because the first one we had last week said 4% of the net funding. And so, what's that? Okay, and actually, we were kind of curious what that was. And what that approximate amount is, the net funding?
Moses could get that for you.
Or
What is 2% of the net funding? What does that come out to?
so the 4% that we were talking was the 2% for each year,
Okay.
2 years.
Mhm.
Okay,
And I can tell you then
sure.
what that is, like kind of what my numbers. This is just salary numbers. So that 4% added like 442,880 dollars.
And so,
And that's not including insurance,
so when you say net funding of what?
like what the stars actually bring.
So so the STARS Act is bringing in 442,000?
The first year, I think we're at like 530.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then 2% of that then? And that's where
As a
that's where
grand total of like, I guess, I don't know how you explain that.
Just that across the board,
I
that
think just
would be 2%.
like what the increase, the 2% would just be the increase of what the salary ranges would take. Yeah.
Okay, so when it says of the net funding from compliance with the incentive,
That's on the MOU, right?
it is, yeah, I just didn't know what that meant, net funding of, because a 4% of 500,000 would be $80,000. And
That's
Yeah.
2% of the entire cost of all salaries.
Okay,
Potentially, I don't know.
I'm just asking, yeah, that's why
That
we
would
were
make
kind
a
of,
lot more sense to be at that 400,000.
and was this from Montana School Board as well? Okay, all right, and let me see if because I know the last time you added,
But you had lined that out so that when you look at the matrix, that was a 2% jump.
Yeah.
So we could even use, we could adjust the language in this.
right, okay. That would
Fit.
yeah.
Versus the matrices that Moses did that
Sure.
we handed out there. So why don't we just plan on that?
Okay, yeah, and then I'll relook at it again as well.
Yeah. So that maybe it's a
I'm-
little.
I'm more of a stickler, language just.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So we'll look at adjusting this to fit
And
that
then-
scattergram that Moses did so that it makes sense for us.
Okay, and then we can look at it then as well next time.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
all
We
right.
can adjust the language of the MOU, but yes, this is the sample that NTSBA used, so
Yep, nope, I get
we
it.
can adjust that, and when we found that different language too in there,
Yeah,
maybe what I'll do is we'll kind of draw it up so that it has, kind of gives both those.
sure.
Then I think just have MTSBA look at it again.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep,
Okay.
that sounds good.
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Okay,
Because something might change with the.
Well, and I'm thinking the same thing. We don't know really yet until it passes the Senate and We've been telling our other locals, just
Yeah.
hold on for, a few more meetings or a week or two, and helps to give everybody a little breathing. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so then as kind of looking, when we really picked apart this whole thing, we found the items within the proposals that were CBA orientated, and then others that were more like good suggestions that were kind of tied in, that aren't necessarily tied within a contract. So some of the points you have, travel stipends, things like that, they're not really tied into the contract. And so as we kind of talked through and got to where we're at, where we were looking at our next meeting, we have a package ready for you that kind of was all encompassing of these things. So that's our goal. We thought, well, maybe we could have cut you guys out less, but you know what I mean, as you kind of evolve and work through this process. So when we meet next time, we're going to have the proposal for you that really meets the CBA proposal portion of this criteria, as well as with your suggestions that you have on some of these things. And
Like
Yep.
structures of.
yeah, exactly, how we plan to meet
Not
kind of
CBA.
the rest of those that aren't necessarily CBA. But we felt like maybe they help kind of benefit the culture, climate, and big picture of how that looks. Does that sound good? Okay.
So are you guys going to offer anything tonight?
Well, not at this time, well, different than we already have. So we're gonna then, like I said, between now and the next meeting, kind of, we've jotted down what we want to offer. And we're gonna get it, put it together, and then we'll be.
You guys be great.
We'd be pretty.
That's why we said, maybe we should have just let them know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, we literally went through every single one of your proposals,
We
every
did.
single paragraph. So, well, that's good.
And no like follow-ups or any questions about them?
And we appreciate it, we feel good.
Yeah.
Membership feels good, whereas that is not.
Yeah.
Right, and that's why we wanted to acknowledge it and take it seriously and take our time to say, here's points that we think would benefit our district, that are good things that we could do, and here's ones, that's it, good practices, and ones that we could bend into an actual CBA. We've been there. So when would be in the next meeting time that we break for you?
When did we know about?
Yeah, do you know, you gonna guess? No.
The end
Oh,
of.
we've been in March
No,
for
you got it.
insurance.
Yeah, she went
27 is what they said. Kind of like that time, 27, 28 at the end of the month.
What do I have?
Not on April Fool's Day?
That must be Halloween, huh?
You wanna maybe shoot for like a couple weeks, maybe like that April 3rd-ish time?
You know what, Oliver is still playing that weekend, so if we could, to next week would be great. Oh, what do you got?
I guess, but district music festival, but that's fine,
When is district?
the 11th and 12th, but
Oh, but you're kind of busy getting ready for it, or what?
yeah. But I mean, it's all terrible, so let's just find a spot, it's fine. It's not like this week's terrible, this week's better, it's just like, oh, this week is this problem.
It's correct.
So,
Mhm.
let's-
Almost 100. Well, and would Wednesday's night be a good thing because kids can't do anything after 6 on Wednesdays.
Right.
Is that how it's still going into the evening or? is it
So there's performance that night on the 3rd?
Yeah. 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Now, maybe
See, I was gonna say the first would work, but we have that, well, I guess.
No, we've got dress rehearsal.
just as a suggestion, maybe 2 weeks max,
Yeah.
just to kind of look at maybe the second on a Wednesday, because
Right.
if we want to shoot to get this wrapped up before May and get those on the contracts and approvals.
in me forever. We have our rescheduled professional development for that day too.
Second,
But I mean, I can wait.
I really cannot that week because it's right in the middle of that play weekend. I'm directing the orchestra, so.
Can we do it like following Monday?
Y'all open the 28th, don't you?
He said the insurance might not come in
27th.
the 28th, until the 27th or 28th.
Yeah, I think we need to wait till April, because to see then we would have a better read.
April 7th,
Monday the 7th.
that's like.
Monday the 7th. Monday the 7th works for me.
Shoot myself in the foot here.
Yeah.
I'll think I'm on.
Lorraine.
How are you?
How about the 9th?
Yeah, I think that
Holly?
works for me.
Moses?
It's probably better
Okay,
earlier than
Monday.
closer to your district,
Yeah,
isn't it?
Monday, yeah. I have a whole-
okay, let's go Monday the
You'll
7th.
send an invite, Brian.
Okay,
Oh,
Monday the-
boy, I was scared today when you sent that cancellation. I mean, you're canceling out on.
yeah, no, remember, because we said that way earlier, and then I was like, yeah, we're not doing it again.
I think I have.
Okay.
We're 15, I'll send the invite.
So whatever money's coming, set aside the 4% for the increase, like what the increase would be.
Okay.
So like with the grants, what it would be.
Got it.
So like.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, David.